It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy's here, Alex is here, Jason's here, and we have a lot to talk about. Why did Apple update everything yesterday? Turns out a pretty big security flaw, but here's the good news. Probably not something you have to worry about. Something we're all worried about. The United Kingdom says Apple must provide them with a backdoor, not just to UK citizens' iCloud accounts, but to everybody's. We'll talk about that. Some great Vision Pro news, a news source of immersive video for you. And where is the iPhone SE 4? We speculate next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 959, recorded Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. A bricolage of features. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Apple news with my good friends, Jason Snell from sixcolors.com. Hello, Jason.
Hello, Leo. How are you?
The lava lamp is working again.
The lava lamp is functional. The light bulb has been replaced. It may be the only incandescent left in my house, but it's back because it's got to heat up the wax so that it bubbles around.
Right.
You can't
need the heat.
If you had an efficient thing that just emitted light and wasn't very warm, what would be the point? Anyway, it's good to be. It's also kind of chilly out here, so I need all the heat I can get.
Also with us, Andy Anako, WGBH Boston. He's in the library where no lava lamps are allowed. Hello.
Of course. Jason, it must be, it just occurred to me that must be like working on like a classic car from the 50s and 60s where you have the lava lamp. Like, I understand absolutely everything about how this lamp works. I can replace the bulb. It turns on and off via a switch that I can understand. Whereas there are lamps in my house where if it stops working, it's like, I can either fix it in 5 seconds or I need to buy a new lamp.
You got to love a product that is designed around the inefficiency of the light bulb, of the incandescent light bulb, where it's like, well, light bulbs get hot. We could do something with that.
Yes.
And now, of course, we've engineered a lot of the heat, not all of the heat. The LEDs can still get hot, but like a lot of the heat out. And so what will become of the lava lamp? They're going to have to build like a heater in there and stuff. It's like, that's too much.
Alex Lindsay, good to see you.
Good to be here. I think it was properly said when they first decided, of like, dude, man, that is so hot. Let's put some stuff around it, man.
Let's just melt some wax, man. What? Whoa, dude. Yeah,
I think that was the origination. We've used it for much other things, but I think that might be in the origination.
I just put this wax bottle on this hot plate, and whoa,
dude. Actually, so I'm going to guess it came from, do you remember the light? No, nobody does. I'm the only one old enough. The light shows during the electric Kool-Aid acid tests and similar concerts, they would do 2 plates with oil in between them and then cast. And so it was kind of moving blobs. I have a feeling it was a descendant of yeah. But that's just a thought from an old man who remembers the 60s.
I love how like all these really sophisticated looking like effects from the 50s and 60s. When you think back that, well, they can't have been that sophisticated.
They weren't digital.
The times when I learned that, I saw a teardown of one of those like funky like space super computer props from the 50s and 60s. And wow, how do they get like all those patterns of flashing lights? Well, they have a motor that spins a disc with some metal dots on it and some copper brushes. that contacts some, and because they have a stack of those that rotate at different speeds, that means they can get it almost random. And I'm like, that is way more elegant than anything that I would have thought of. I'm just like, okay, first of all, I'm going to need 3 Arduinos.
Yeah, exactly.
One that's connected to an atomic clock.
Just a quick reminder that Apple has, as they seem to do every week now, updated iOS, macOS, all the OSs. It seems now you're going to see articles with people with your hair on fire. It's already been exploited. Blah blah blah. Got to update to 18.3.1, or what is it? 18.3.1. But if you read the security bulletin, it requires physical access. A physical attack may disable USB restricted mode on a locked device. So unless you've got a bad guy living with you,
or unless you've handed your phone over to a cop,
right? So. And they say Apple is aware, and this is from the Apple Security Bulletin, of a report this issue may have been exploited in an extremely sophisticated attack against specific targeted individuals.
Could be that USB charger kind of thing too, right? You swap out a charger or some other kind of block.
Oh, that's what it is. Sure.
Right.
That's exactly what
and then
it is.
and then you've got access if you've got but the extremely sophisticated suggests me that there was an operation, right? An operation to insert this,
kind of
a USB
nation-state
something somewhere where they would then plug in and they would.
Jason Bourne did it, is what you're saying.
And
yes,
it is a good argument for there are cables that are power only, that you may want to have. I have one of them in my bag that I have marked. I almost never use it because I almost never plug into a car or a, that I don't, someone else's, like a rental car or a definitely not something at the airport where there's a USB, like I'm not gonna do that. But just in case, I do carry a cable that is got that, I've tested it. There's no data there. I can't get data to show up there. So it's just power.
It's possible to do that. You just don't have a data line. I have quite a few of these PortaPow. They're cheap.
The data blockers.
Data blockers. And in fact, I think Steve Gibson called them USB condoms, which certainly brings it home. And this is Type A, but I'm sure they have Type C and so forth.
You no longer feel quite so paranoid. I recently bought like a new Faraday bag for my phone, and I decided to keep it like in my laptop bag because I don't necessarily think that it's like a stingray is going to affect my life at all in any way, shape, or form. But if I'm ever walking through Boston and I see a big protest, and if I have that Faraday bag in my laptop bag, maybe I'm going to turn my phone off and put it in there just to make sure that I don't get caught in some sort of a sweep. And I hate the fact that I'm now thinking about that.
Now, David Schaub in our YouTube chat said something interesting. He says USB-C PD, the power delivery standard, does not have a no data line. I don't know if that's true, but that might be something to be. You know what? Get 1831 is what you should be doing. And while Apple doesn't say that the macOS update has the same problem, I note that they did update Sequoia to 15.3.1, Sonoma to 14.7.4, Ventura to 13.7.4, WatchOS 11.3.1, and even the Vision Pro was updated. So there's something going on. I feel like this is, they didn't have any CVEs associated with those other devices, but no published CVE is what they're saying. So I'd be doing that. Once again, the government is getting involved, and there's nothing we can do. Oh, in this case, it's the UK. The United Kingdom's Snoopers Charter, which is the Investigatory Powers Act of 2016, is now has given the UK the means to secretly require Apple to provide a backdoor in iCloud. This is exclusive to the Washington Post, who says they have sources, because neither Apple nor the UK government are talking about it, and Apple, I think, is enjoined from talking about it. But of course, leakers are going to say, hey, whoa, wait a minute. This is a big deal. Remember, Apple did provide backdoors to iCloud for a long time. In fact, they even told the FBI when remember the terrorist attack in Southern California, they said, San Bernardino, if you just brought the guy's phone to his house, it would have backed up to iCloud and we could have given it to you. They've added something called advanced protection now, which does not give them a backdoor.
Yeah, that's and 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's what the UK is concerned about.
Yeah, and it's a huge deal because it's not like the San Bernardino case where the FBI went to Apple say, "Hi, we need you to get us into this one phone." This one is, we want to have the ongoing ability to simply, anytime we want to get into somebody's secure iCloud backup, just to be able to do that without even having to go through you. So they're asking for a permanent open gate into people's private data, and that's going to be Apple is going to, that's one demand you make of Apple, where Apple is almost has to say, okay, guess what? Nobody gets encryption in the UK anymore, because we would much rather have everybody understand that all of their data is vulnerable than simply provide a backdoor. The first step for the UK to start saying, hi, we also want a backdoor into iMessage. We also want a backdoor into VPN apps. They just simply cannot get in. They simply cannot condone this. They simply cannot participate in this. And the only way out is to.
You might say, well, I'm not in the UK, but it's everybody. So the UK would have access to Americans' data in iCloud as well.
And because they're part of the Five Eyes, if the United States wanted access to it, they could simply ask their friends and say, great.
Meredith Whitaker, who's the president of Signal, said using technical capability notices, that's what the UK is using, to weaken encryption around the globe is a shocking move that will position the UK as a tech pariah rather than a tech leader. If implemented, the directive will create a dangerous cybersecurity vulnerability in the nervous system of our global economy. Cryptographer Matthew Green from Johns Hopkins and Alex Stamos, who was a regular on our show, wrote a op-ed piece saying the only solution at this point is for the United States Congress to pass a law forbidding it, because then when you have opposing laws from two different countries, ours in this case, because it's a U.S. company, would trump, if you will, the UK law. I can't remember where that op-ed is, and I can't find it anymore. So maybe. And I noticed Stamos pulled down his post on X saying, "Hey, we just wrote this op-ed." So I don't know. Maybe they were told X-nay on the op-ed. BBC has confirmed it, so it's not now just the Washington Post. EFF reminds everybody that there's no such thing as a safe backdoor.
Yeah, I think that my concern with this, right, like, first off, there's no such thing as a safe backdoor. If there is a key and Apple has it, because Apple needs to have it, that means that anybody who has access at Apple could get that key, and it could spread from there. But even if it just stays at Apple, it means that anybody who, for various legal reasons, can get Apple to unlock data, Apple will be able to. And I mean, I hope you guys can talk me off the ledge here, but this feels to me like the death of big tech companies, large companies offering complete end-to-end encryption where they don't hold a key. Feels to me like the future, the path we're going down, the future is going to be, you may be able to compile it from source, you may be able to get it off GitHub, you may be able to find it in an app store, you may not even be able to do that, but that if it's anybody who is sort of a legitimate size or not to offer this, they're going to all end up having to hold a key and be a man in the middle, essentially, because you've got governments who just, they want to be able to unlock stuff if they ask. And, the UK's arguments are stupid, because the UK's arguments are like, oh, no, it's okay. It's not going to be for everybody. It's just going to be when we ask in a secret court that nobody ever knows about for reasons that are good. Trust us.
And
like,
you can't say, and Apple cannot tell anybody. It's one of those, things where
it's secret.
Top secret.
It's all secret, so there could be no oversight. This obviously leaked because somebody is bothered by this, but I don't know. It feels to me like we are going to enter an era where if you're a large player, you're going to have to hold the keys like that. And if somebody else wants to read your encrypted stuff with that key, they're going to be compelled to give it to them. And then,
this is thank you, Scooter X. He found the link. It's a Wall Street Journal opinion piece. Matthew Green and Alex Stamos, two of our most respected cryptographers in the U.S., said that UK kicks Apple's door open for China. Beijing would quickly exploit the British order to allow access to encrypted data. They said Congress must immediately enact a law prohibiting American tech companies from providing encryption backdoors to any country. This would create a conflict of laws situation, allowing Apple to fight this order in UK courts and protect American safety and security. Somehow, I don't know if that seems likely.
The problem is that our representatives are digital children, and so they, their understanding of this will be very
they're told by
blunted.
The FBI, the NSA,
they're told by
the
intelligence
CIA,
agencies that
this is good.
We have to have this. The Five Eyes have been trying to pry this door open for years, a decade, at least. And so they use different countries. There's been laws we've seen in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, UK, they can't get it done in the United States because every time they bring them up, there's enough people that get upset that stop it. But it's one thing to stop it, another thing to get them to do a whole new law to stop it. That's the hard part, is that. But the Five Eyes have been trying to pry this open for a long time, and I, it comes probably from a relatively good place. Their job, they get. It's kind of like when you're talking to someone in IT and you ask them for extra ports to be opened. What do they get out of that other than getting in trouble when things don't work? When there's a terrorist act and something happens in UK, they're going to blame MI5 or MI6 or whatever for not doing what they need, everything they could have done to protect it. And they're coming from this kind of when you have a hammer, everything's a nail. Like, we get blamed for things that get through. So you get where they're coming from, but it is a pretty horrible thing to let. I mean, there's just, as Jason said, there's no way to put this back in the back, and it's just really a bad idea
for the people who say, well, you could have a backdoor and it could be secured. I remind you that in 1994, the United States passed a law, CALEA, the Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act, which allowed law enforcement to wiretap in the United States. The back doors that were provided to law enforcement in 1994 are the ones the Chinese hackers are using with Salt Typhoon to monitor government communications in the United States. You can put a back door in there. And by the way, at the time, the director of the FBI said, oh, no, it'll be safe. We'll make sure that back door is never breached, et cetera, et cetera. But it was. And it's the Chinese who did it. And there's no going back on that, we can't get the Chinese hackers out of our phone system now.
I mean, they're hoovering up. I think that people don't understand. Also, they're like, well, I'm a regular person. I'm not breaking any laws. Like, how does this affect me? The Chinese are trying to get an angle on everybody and all the things that they could, because they're not just interested in taking your money and taking your bank account. They're interested in potentially somewhere in the future being able to move the population one direction or another. You're talking about a country that has like a merit system for how you get things done. They're playing a much deeper game than what we're talking about.
Well, but they also tapped the Trump campaign, the Harris campaign. They tapped Congress. So even if it's not just, if it's only big shots, that's bad.
But what I'm saying is that they are selling us digital frames that are gathering our data. I had a radio for my car that won't let you can't connect to the radio unless you give it your address book and connect and turn your phone into a hotspot, and you're like, oh, no, thank you. And so so they're constantly, because you gather, just the same way the NSA does it, you gather all this information because you don't know who you need to spearfish or who you need to leverage somewhere in the future to get access to something that's bigger than, that person may be the cousin of someone who works at a power company or works for a campaign. And what you need is to be able to send an intelligent email to somebody else going, hey, can you click on this? I want to show you something, and boom, you're in, and so all of these things are connected, and it's just it is really dangerous what we're talking about here. And we'll pay the price, because we'll actually have bad things happen because they're trying to protect us from the bad things.
Honestly, I would bet most of you don't use advanced data protection on your iPhones. Do any of you?
No.
Because it's a pain in the ass, right? Yeah. So it doesn't really impact you guys because Apple has our iCloud keys. There is a backdoor. This is only really for people who want to protect themselves with advanced data protection.
And that can be, you're like, okay, well, those are the criminals and the bad guys, and they don't need to be protected. And that's the argument of all of these law enforcement agencies. But the truth is, if you are a dissident, if you are somebody who is being targeted by your own or some other government, and we've seen there are plenty of examples of this. There are people being targeted in their own countries. There are people who have left the countries who are being targeted elsewhere. You can just look at Khashoggi, right? Like, he was surveilled and then he was brought to an embassy and murdered by his government outside, right? And so
Probably
those
why the
people,
Washington Post has a
journalists,
dog in its hunt, isn't it? Yeah.
You know, it's journalists who are talking to people who are in danger, and they want to find out who they're talking to so that they can then find those people and put them in danger, or they're trying to save. Like, there are lots of those kinds of issues. It's not just the bad guys. And the problem is, once the bottle is open, again, not to make these slippery slope arguments, but like once there is a mechanism, they will use it, which is why people talk about not allowing the mechanism. And law enforcement will always tell you they want more tools.
Right.
There has to be somebody else to say you don't need more tools. And I always bring this up when we talk about this, but when the Miranda ruling came out in the early 70s, I believe, where you have the right to remain silent, etc., law enforcement said that that's it. Crime will run rampant. Everything is ruined because we have to read people their rights. Well, that didn't happen. Like, that didn't happen. But they're going to make this argument. You just need somebody on the other side. And which means in the UK's case, in practical terms, what you really need is for a whistleblower to leak this to, you know, a journalist who is going to write about it, which starts a conversation, which leads to it being politically impractical, so that the political people in this case, Parliament in the UK and in the cabinet in the UK can go to the intelligence source and go, we can't do this. This looks bad. Otherwise, they'll just take whatever they can get.
Yeah, and for me, everything I agree with absolutely everything that you said. In addition to that, there's such a fundamental principle that if you make encryption illegal or impossible, you can't have a situation where the government is saying that a citizen does not have the right to know something that the government can't know as well. We're not allowed to hold a secret. That is the sort of thing where if it had been even conceivably possible 250 years ago, this is something that would have been in the Bill of Rights. Because until digital encryption, you can, if you write something down, well, at some point someone can find it. At some point someone can dig it up. Someone can get it. Now we have encrypt. Basically, I can put something in a safe, but that safe can be opened with a court order. I can create a code, but that code can be broken. It's never come up. Now it is actually possible for us to have a secret that we don't want anybody else to know. Doesn't matter if it's the government. Doesn't matter if it's our next door neighbor. We can't have a situation where we're not allowed to encrypt this with the strongest cryptography available if we so choose. Because again, that statement is that you are not allowed to know something that the government cannot find out from you. That is on principle something that we have to resist fully.
Yeah. What should Apple do?
They can't play ball. Absolutely cannot play ball.
We're out of here.
Yeah. They can't say we participate. They can't say that we have to go by whatever rules and laws are enabled in the country that we operate in, because that essentially is, nobody can believe them ever when they say that they actually believe in privacy. This is such a wholesale destruction of everybody's privacy in the entire world that this is Apple's purity test. Do they actually believe in privacy, or is this a marketing thing that they can keep promoting themselves on because they don't make any money off of anti-privacy? So no, they have to basically say that, guess what, we're not going to participate. The only way we can comply with this law is by not offering any product or service in the UK that is under the umbrella of this law. I don't see any other way around it.
I mean, in the past, they've made iCloud available. I mean, they made the servers available to secure to law enforcement when subpoenaed. You know, like I think
that's not the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that, that hasn't been a line that they drew in the past. Where they've drawn the line in the past is the phone. Like, you can't, like, they've not given anybody the ability, including the United States government, the ability to actually get the data that's on the phone. And so I think, and I think that a lot of the security things that we've seen Apple do, add to the phone, is not necessarily to protect you from people trying to steal your bank account. It's to protect you from governments. They've been slowly, welding off the doors, for years. And so it'll be interesting to see, where they cart that off. Like, I guess my question is like, if you are an end-to-end encryption and between two phones, is there any way to do that without the iCloud infrastructure? Like, is that,
Yeah.
does that, you know, because the messages themselves could be encrypted. You can, like, sure, you can have the back end to iCloud, but you don't get, but if the messages are encrypted on both ends,
Yeah.
even having access to iCloud wouldn't necessarily give you access to the messages.
Yeah,
It feels like we're.
I'm sorry, just quickly. It did occur to me that this is another argument for the ability to sideload apps. If the thing is that we've discovered with TikTok that there's an ability to simply choke off a nation's access to any app simply by choking off access to the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. If you have the ability, if we have a nightmare situation in which in a country that any sort of encryption is illegal, Signal is illegal, and anything that cannot be eavesdropped on is illegal, the only way to get around it would be to sideload an app that can't be choked off from the Apple App Store. So that's just another data point.
Because that's the next step here. The next step here is literally making it illegal for any company to offer an encryption system of communication that does not include a key that they possess, right? That's essentially what they would do. Because you can't outlaw encryption, really, right? Like, because it's math. You can't do that. But what you can do is require the builders of all encrypted systems to hold in their possession a way to decrypt messages. And if Andy, as Andy said, and Alex, as you pointed out, like, you could build a system where you're not involved and there's no one in the middle and it's all direct and they do their own key exchange and all of that. But if they say legally you can't build that, you have to add a step where you possess the keys, even if you're not in the middle. If they have to send you the keys as well, so that if their encrypted data is handed off, you have to decrypt it. Then what are you going to do? And that's essentially outlawing Signal. And Andy's right. That shows the weak point here, which is if you outlaw all of these systems, then all you have to do is go to the two app stores and you've choked it off of at least everybody's phone and tablet.
And
it's kind of interesting because it really is going to be a whack-a-mole because the encryption is well understood. The software, the source code is out there. It is not hard to roll your own, to be honest.
It's not going to stop any bad guys.
Libraries.
Yeah.
Bad guys will have encryption.
Yeah.
And anybody who's really technically sophisticated will also be able to create a messaging app that is as secure as Signal. This is not some magic technology.
No.
It's out there. And so I guess it'll create kind of an underground, a black market of encryption.
I mean, this is where we were in the 90s, I feel like, right? Where it was like real people knew they could get PGP and you could print it in a book and then type in the code, or it also reminds me of like DCSS, right? Where it's like you can't rip DVDs except everybody knows the server that's in a country that doesn't care that lets you have the code to decrypt DVDs. And and the net result is, yes, Leo, the bad guys will not be stopped. People who are very technical will not be stopped. Everybody who is not really bad but is non-technical and is doing stuff will now be subject to this kind of scrutiny. And you can say, I have nothing to hide. But again, sometimes you do have something to hide. Sometimes you do something that you think is fine, but there's somebody in your country who has decided that they're going to target you and they're going to find out something about you that they're going to use, or they're going to make your life hell or whatever. And those are the people who will be not protected by this.
But I mean, or it's someone 2 or 3 degrees of separation away that they're trying to get to, and you're just a step on that way.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing is it's that the exponential math there is gathering all that data, and we will absolutely be exposed if they do this. Like, and it's absolutely a problem, and it's a big deal, and they've been trying to pry this door open for a decade. Because they feel like they have to do everything they can. This is what everyone does. This is their mission. That's why you join the NSA or the CIA or everything else. But the issue is that we make decisions all the time about what's appropriate. We're willing to put up with a certain amount of danger based on the fact we could make it so that no one dies driving cars. It would just be really not a great experience, like to actually drive cars around. If we made it, life in prison if you get into an accident, like okay, well then everyone's going to stop driving, and the thing is that it's not good for the industry. It's not good for the country. It's not good for us. There's nothing, and you can't be absolute about protection. We have to make decisions about what, and it'll sound callous, but acceptable loss, like that we're not going to give up all of our freedoms out of fear.
Yeah.
And that's
Absolutely.
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, to me, just quickly, I mean, you don't even have to have a reason. You don't have to have a secret to hide. You don't have to have consequences if a certain secret gets out. You can simply decide that my personal private information is my personal private information. You are not entitled to it. I am entitled to create as thick a barrier of security against a third party learning this or seeing this as I desire, and that is my right. As you say, we forget that 250 years ago, a lot of the things that we take for granted today are just simply agreements that were made that became sacrosanct. The idea that, guess what, cops, you need a warrant to come in here and search my place. The government cannot actually shut down a printing press. The government cannot actually shut down a website for saying things that it doesn't like. That could have gone the other way. We would have a lot more convictions, and a lot of crimes would be stopped if the cops could simply come in, basically rough up anybody they want and throw people in jail because they're pretty sure that someone did something. As you say, we've decided that the idea of giving up that form of liberty for a little bit of safety is not an acceptable trade-off. And so it has been a sacrosanct part of our rights as Americans. And through other countries basically looking at our Constitution, saying that's pretty good, let's cut, copy, and paste it, it's become international. So again, it's not a case of I have nothing to hide, or I have something that I need to hide, or my life could be in danger if a hostile government were able to track me and who I talk to. I can simply decide that I don't want people to know a certain thing, and that's where no is a beginning, middle, and an end of an argument when it comes to that.
I wonder if you're going to create a kind of a cadre of Mr. Robots, where there's a subculture of people who understand that you don't use commercial phones or PCs, that you run your own software, and that you have your own cryptography built into, not your own, probably.
Yeah.
There'd be an underground of these tools. That's dangerous
go to the
in and of
de-Google
itself. Yeah, de-Googled. Yeah.
You can buy a phone, put a clean ROM on it, put a clean version of ASOP Android on it, choose very, very carefully the apps that you put on it, and basically have the most difficult to trace phone on the planet. It's not going to be nearly as convenient, nearly as fun, nearly as enabling or empowering.
Yeah,
but
you're not going to have a Fortnite on it.
It's important to have that power if you choose to go through that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the question is how many people care enough to do that. By the way, again, if you're not using advanced data protection, this really doesn't apply because Apple already has the keys. So I wonder, has Apple ever said how many people use ADP? I got to think.
I don't think so.
Tiny fraction. It's going to be government people who have, secret agents, people who have a strong reason to keep their stuff private. Because it is inconvenient. Most of us, all of us on the panel, I bet most listeners aren't willing to take those extra steps. It's an interesting world we live in, as they say. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. There's a lot more news, including rumors flying. I thought maybe today we'd have a brand new iPhone SE. Could it be any minute now? We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Jason Snell is here from Six Colors, Andy Anako from GBH, and Alex Lindsay from OfficeHours.global. This episode of MacBreak Weekly brought to you by Stash. Saving and investing can feel impossible, but with Stash, it's not just a reality. It's easy. Stash isn't just an investing app. It's a registered investment advisor that combines automated investing with dependable financial strategies to help you reach your goals faster. They'll provide you with personalized advice on what to invest in based on your goals, or if you want to just sit back and watch your money go to work, you can opt into their award-winning expert-managed portfolio that picks stocks for you. Stash has helped millions of Americans reach their financial goals and starts at just $3 per month. Don't let your savings sit around. Make it work harder for you. Go to get.stash.com/MacBreak to see how you can receive $25 towards your first stock purchase and to view important disclosures. That's get.stash.com/MacBreak. Paid non-client endorsement, not representative of all clients and not a guarantee. Investment advisory services offered by Stash Investments, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk. Offer is subject to T&Cs. Apple had to remove some malware. Actually, it was both Apple and Android. Screen reading malware that was designed to capture your crypto wallet backup password. Wow. This is called SparkCat. It infested more than one app, but a small number of IO apps. Kaspersky discovered it. Apple has pulled those apps from the App Store. Some of the apps that had the malware included nothing you've ever heard of. CumCum, WeTink, and AnyGPT. 11 apps in total. Although, according to Mac Rumors, when removing the apps, Apple found another 89 with the same code that had been rejected or removed previously for violating Apple's fraud policies. So it was it's kind of an interesting hack. The SDK that was built into these apps wasn't part of the main functionality of the app, but it had OCR capabilities. And so it could look at images and screenshots stored on iPhones. And I guess if you have a crypto wallet and you get a recovery phrase, you might do a screenshot of it and save it so that you can recover your wallet. I wish I had. Although, if I had, maybe malware would have stolen it anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty sophisticated too. Like if it got confused by what it was seeing, it would actually load like a different translator OCR. It's like, damn, these people are well financed and damn clever.
That's amazing. So let's talk about the iPhone SE. Mark Gurman said it any day now, right?
Yeah,
has that been debunked? Are we going to see it?
He said no sooner. I think he said no sooner than now. And it hasn't happened yet, so he's right. Exactly, he nailed it. It happened no sooner, but it's imminent. I think he said this week or next. So okay. Either it's about to happen, or it'll be next week. We don't know. Yeah. And I can say, and sometimes I go visit my mom in Arizona, and people are like, "Oh, I think Jason is going somewhere secret for a briefing." I have no briefings or anything about this, so either they're not telling me or it's not imminent. But I honestly don't know.
It will be, according to Gurman, $499, which is a little more, right, than the old SE. But it will have an A18, I think, so it can run Apple Intelligence. That's kind of the main point, I would think. And according to, and I don't know if this is credible, Yanko Design, Spigen accidentally revealed the iPhone SE 4 design with its, Spigen makes those lovely clear cases. And so you can see the action button, a bigger screen, and more. I don't know how credible this is. Sometimes case manufacturers guess, and just so they'll have something ready day of, and then they'll quickly pull it back if it doesn't work.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be terribly off. It's usually when they do that, it's usually based on like tooling and manufacturing. Even for like a limited run, costs enough money that they must have somebody who slid them enough information that okay, we're going to go with this.
Every year, people offer blank, versions of a new phone, that are either prototypes or aimed at, phone stores or, somehow exfiltrated from Chinese manufacturing. So probably they have some information.
Yeah, and as we've said many times in the past, like if it really is going to be released this week or next week, this is about the time you would start seeing accidents of this kind.
Right. I mean, the other thing is the case business leaks early because they pay a lot of money, and it is where most of the industrial design leaks come from because they're in China. They got money to spend, and they need to know the dimensions so that they can get their cases ready. Right. So it totally happens. And Andy's right. We're now in accidental leak season, which I don't know. It feels a little bit like the iPhone SE. Like it's not even the high. It's not red alert. It's like a yellow alert for leaks. They're like, we prefer it to be secret, but it's not the new iPhone, and the new iPhones leak like crazy. So yeah.
It is. I'm sure it's not the most popular iPhone, but I know a lot of people who would like an SE, right?
Yeah, and it's a very important phone. The minimum buy-in for an iPhone has to be competitive with mid-range Android phones, not only in the United States, because if you think that it's such a lesser version of the iPhone that kids would not be interested in buying it. Maybe the kids are not the ones who are actually paying for it. It's the parents who are buying it.
Right.
So it's a way to keep it in the family. And internationally, the price point of a regular iPhone is prohibitive for a great number of people. And Apple still has to keep, they're still making, 52% of their money off of iPhone sales. They can't risk losing a lifelong iPhone user simply because they don't have a decent phone that can compete with a really, really good $300, $400 Android phone, of which there are a great many.
Gurman says, as I said, $499. That's $70 more than the current SE. The current SE, by the way, along with the iPhone 14, discontinued in the EU because they don't have USB-C, and law requires that in the EU. Yeah. So that's another reason to get going on the SE.
Yeah. I do like the fact that Gurman's rumors are basically saying this does not feel like a terribly cut down phone. The fact that it is fully capable of Apple Intelligence means that Apple is really, really committed to the long term and not manufacturing a divide between Apple Intelligence users and non-Apple Intelligence users. They really want to make sure that even if you got in the door for the cheapest ticket possible, you're still getting enough CPU power, enough AI to be able to use Apple Intelligence.
No home button. That will be the end of the home button. It will have Face ID. And I think it might be most interesting to us because it should be, according to Gurman, the first Apple iPhone with the Apple-designed modem instead of the Qualcomm modem. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of benchmarking and a lot of interest in this.
Yeah, at the same time, they're a little bit insulated because if it turns out, gasp, 5G speeds are not as fast on the iPhone SE as on the regular mainline iPhones, the response is really going to be, it's an iPhone SE. Of course, like they can get away with some issues as long as they're functional with them not being up to par with like the latest and greatest from Qualcomm. I'm not saying that'll happen, but I'm saying that it is their cheapest new phone, so they can get away with it on there or on an iPad or even on a Mac in a way that they can't on the mainline iPhone. They got to get that right.
And it's also completely in line with the idea of having a budget phone, not having to pay other people for licensing or for their own modem technology. That actually is going to affect the price as well.
Sure.
I think Qualcomm's position has always been, I don't care if you make your own modems, you're still using our technology. You still got to pay us.
License, yeah.
But there's got to be a savings there.
Yeah, they're not buying the chips, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a big deal.
Well, and I wonder, they're not going to build in CDMA, which was Qualcomm's big license. So,
right.
Yeah. You're right, though, Andy. If you need a small phone, there's always the Paris Hilton Razr Plus. Brand new, pink, very pink, aggressively pink. It's a flip phone from Motorola. They call it the Razr Plus. And it comes with a little purse case. So that's nice. It's also pink.
Get one for your dog, your little tiny fluffy dog.
I'm so tempted. I'm so tempted. It is a folding phone. Does it have a folding screen? It's kind of hard to tell from the pictures, but there's Paris using it. Hilton, not Martineau. There she is with her little pink purse. Pretty in Paris pink is the color. Oh, it even says that's hot on the hinge. Paris's trademark. So, your wallpaper, her signature style.
Is that a Motorola?
Yeah, Moto.
Yeah.
Every time I see that, I'm always like, Motorola still makes phones? They make.
It's an Android phone. Yeah.
And they make really great cheap phones. Like, no kidding. They make their $250, $280 phone is probably going to be without Apple Intelligence, it would be as good as Apple's SE.
There are those who would prefer not to have Apple Intelligence.
Yeah.
And in fact, there are those who turned off Apple Intelligence who are now saying, wait a minute, whoa, it's back on. Is it a bug?
Yeah, I don't know. The story when it first hit after 18.3.1 hit was that wow, Apple is now automatically turning on Apple Intelligence when you install the new OS, and then there's some people who were taking a look at it saying, it's not happening for me, but it's happening for me. And they're sort of like tracking through the install process, saying that, well, I'm not seeing this welcome screen. And if I saw the welcome screen, people who see the welcome screen are having it turned on automatically, people who are not seeing it. So there's some speculation it might be a bug. I don't know that Apple would create a bug that accidentally turns on Apple Intelligence. I think that they might decide that we're good.
According to developer Jeff Johnson, who was one of the people who experienced it, he had apparently disabled Apple Intelligence in 18.3 and saw it re-enabled after the update to 18.3.1 yesterday. He says, I personally have two different Apple Silicon Macs running Sequoia, updated to 15.3.1 Apple Intelligence re-enabled on the MacBook Pro, but not on the Mac Mini. So I've turned it on. I mean, I'm not sure why you wouldn't want Apple Intelligence. I know it's not that intelligent. What's going to happen? Is Apple going to somehow fix Siri? Is something going to... Is 18.4 going to fix it, Jason? Have you been playing with the latest developer editions?
I haven't used the latest beta. The 18.4, the idea is that it will have some improvements to Siri, and it'll have the context, the personal context stuff that is a value. But then again, this is what we were all really hoping, was that this was going to be a big step forward for Siri, and then Mark Gurman rained on our parade and said, well, the really good Siri is not going to be for another year. Yeah. So I think, I mean, Apple's problem here is that they recolored Siri. They changed the animations of Siri back when they shipped 18, and that was a mistake because it implies a level of improvement of Siri that has not existed. It might be that Siri's better in this. I hope it is. Better understanding your personal context at the very least. We'll see. But if Gurman is to be believed, and I think I believe him, there's going to be, there's the biggest work on Siri is yet to come, which is disturbing. Although when you think about it, like Amazon is about to do an event to promote their future release of an improved agent, right? Like a lot of companies are sort of still struggling to do a comprehensive overhaul of their old agents. Apple's not alone in this, but boy, it is. I mean, I would say it's desperate times, but it was desperate times like 5 years ago with Siri.
And again,
so we'll see.
I'll keep on saying, go back to the disaster that Apple Maps was, and now it works just fine. You know, like there's time, money, they have some time and they have lots of money. You know, and those things, time and money fixes a lot of things, like especially when you have a company that's pretty good at executing. So I have a feeling like it'd be very hard for us to, I think we should come back 3 or 4 years from now and say, well, did they figure this out? Because that's about how long it took Apple Maps to figure it out.
Yeah, and wouldn't we all be shocked and surprised and suspicious if Apple, in so many words, said that, Siri is so expandable and flexible and extendable that we were able to give it AI features without doing a whole gut and remodel. It always seemed like the sort of thing where they will keep the name, they will keep the interface, but it's a ship of Theseus. It's like everything has been replaced to make
Notoriously, Amazon's been having a lot of trouble putting AI in Echo. They have announced an event, as you said, Jason, February 26th. We'll stream it if it's streamed, because I think it'll be very interesting. Panos Panay, ex of Microsoft, the guy who's so pumped about Microsoft Surface devices, is now their senior vice president of devices and services. He'll be the keynote. But according to CNBC, Apple executives have scheduled a go, no-go meeting for Valentine's Day. They are not confident that they'll be able to put the AI in. It has done apparently, leaks from Amazon say it's awful. It will be an add-on, by the way. They'll have traditional Amazon Echo, and then for $5 to $10 more, you'll be able to get an AI-based Echo. But that's not confirmed because Friday their poor sweethearts are just going to have to be left in the lurch because they're going to have a big no-go meeting to decide whether to, according to Reuters, to decide whether to put the smarts in. So we shall see. I'm very curious about all this. They're committed. They sent press invites out for February 26th, but
It's difficult. The road for every single smart assistant that's been trying to make this adaptation is that before you can make the assistant smarter, you have to make it a lot dumber. Like it has to. You'll when you start rolling out these AI features, suddenly the assistant that was hardwired to do the 80% of things that everybody wants it to do, it does all that stuff well. Now it might not. Oh,
That happened with Siri,
I can
right?
definitely help you set a timer for cooking your brownies. Cooking brownies requires 3 different. Like no. Just set a timer.
Just set
10
a
minutes.
freaking
That's all.
timer.
Yeah.
Well, and Siri has. I mean, remember the Gruber piece that Siri has gotten dumber. And well, it's claiming to know stuff it doesn't know, instead of saying, "Well, here's what I found on the web about that."
Well, and the ChatGPT integration that they added, I understand why, but I am actually a little bit surprised that it isn't more integrated. That if you say I'm happy to get ChatGPT results,
It should just be there.
that it doesn't sort of take those in and pass them on to you, because instead you end up saying, hey lady, ask ChatGPT to do this thing. And at that point, it should probably, like, again, you shouldn't use it if you don't want to, but if you're like okay with it, then they should do a better job of letting Siri kick things to GPT. And it still feels, Siri is all patched together. They keep adding things to it. Like, it's a mess. And it's built up over years. It is this, bricolage of little sticks and strings and things that have been built on. It's like a nest or something.
I love
or a
that
beaver
word.
dam. Bricolage is a great word, but that's what it is. It's kind of a mess. And then you put GPT on top. And the weird thing is that sometimes it says, no, I know this. And then it gets it wrong when it should say, let's ask ChatGPT that if you want, which I would choose to. Yeah.
What is a bricolage?
It's like a mess of stuff that's just kind of like added together and built up over time.
It feels like a hobby, like somebody would be. I'm really
a
into
collage. Yeah, I think
bricolage.
it's the same kind of French root there, but it's a bricolage is like, imagine just you keep on adding sticks and strings and twigs and you built up a thing, and then
like
you
a
look at it
beaver
and you're like,
dam.
what the
Yeah.
heck is this thing? It's a bricolage. That was the name of our CMS at Macworld back in the day. Was bricolage. That's how I know what that word
Excellent.
means. It's a great word, though.
Retcon says it's a term used in arts and literature, work made from available things by Levi Strauss.
Yes, with whatever materials are to hand, so you construct it out of the pieces that are around you.
In
And I
French,
think
a
Siri
to bricoler is to fiddle or tinker.
I think Siri is a bricolage if ever I saw one. Apologies to bricolages everywhere for that, by the way.
I've never heard that word before, and now I'm like, how is this not the name of one of those absolutely insufferable tech startups? Where
Such a good name.
You don't know what the product is, but they got to start. Let me explain what a bricolage is and why we think it's pertinent to our vision for mobile computing.
I am the bricoler. Let's take a little break and come back. Lots more to talk about. You're watching MacBreak Weekly with some actual intelligence in the form of Andy and Akko. Alex Lindsay and Jason Snell. Actual intelligence. That's what AI stands for. Actual intelligence. And our sponsor of the moment is Delete Me. Now, I have to ask you, when's the last time I'm not encouraging you to do this. When's the last time you searched for your name online? I did it years ago, and I was so appalled by how much was out there. I immediately started to go around deleting stuff, but doing it by hand is very, very hard. And there's a real problem with that because even though they're required, all of these data brokers are required to have a page where you can delete your data. It's not permanent. They start reaccreting your dossier almost immediately. Plus, there's new data brokers all the time. When the big national public data breach happened a couple of months ago, do you remember that? And they said hundreds of millions of people's social security number was revealed. Steve Gibson and I both, there's a site where you could look up to see if you were in that data breach. Both looked it up. And yep, there was our social. Gosh, right there in public, available for sale to the highest bidder. But then I thought, we've been using Delete Me for my wife, for Lisa, for some time, because I think it's really important in a business that management not have that information online for security reasons. Lisa was not in the breach. No, nothing. That's amazing. That's why we use Delete Me. Delete Me has accounts for families, for businesses, and for individuals. And I'll tell you why it's really important for a business. We were starting to get scams pretending to be Lisa. They knew her phone number. They knew the phone numbers of her direct reports. They would send text messages to them saying, "This is Lisa. I'm in a meeting, but please buy, $1,000 worth of Amazon cards and send them here. I got to give them to all the employees." And fortunately, our employees are neither greedy nor dumb. They have actual intelligence and didn't fall for it, but it scared the heck out of me. So I immediately signed her up for Delete Me. For the Delete Me family plans, it's great because you can make sure everybody in your family is protected. Delete Me helps reduce risk from identity theft, from cybersecurity threats like those spear phishing attacks I mentioned, harassment, and more. And you could, in theory, do it yourself. First of all, there's hundreds and hundreds of these data brokers. You'd have to know all of them. But like I said, it doesn't end there. There's new data brokers all the time. So Delete Me's experts know all of these sources. They will go out, remove your information from hundreds of data brokers, and then they will continue to scan and remove your information regularly. With the family plan, you can assign unique data sheets to each family member, so it's tailored to what they want deleted, what they don't want deleted. You can manage privacy settings for the whole family. I'm talking everything from addresses and photos and emails, all removed, relatives removed, phone numbers, social media, property value, and on and on. Protect yourself, reclaim your privacy. It's a really good service, and we know it works. Join deleteme.com/twit. If you use the offer code TWIT, you'll get 20% off, TWIT. Join deleteme.com/twit. The offer code TWIT gets you 20% off all privacy plans. Choose the one that's right for you. Really, really works. We're extremely happy with the results. I gave up. I mean, it's like everybody who works for me knows if you get a text message from Leo, it's definitely phony. It's not the real deal. I did order something this morning. I was very excited. I ordered my new Powerbeats Pro 2. Same price as AirPods Pro, and you get transparency mode, noise cancellation, personalized spatial audio. The H2 chip is in it. And this is the first time in an Apple audio product, heart rate monitoring also built in. I did buy the orange ones, so
Did you really? I was like,
yeah.
These look really good, but I'm not going to get orange. And then I saw they had other colors. So.
They have black, gray, purplish, and orange. But I thought I'm going all in, man. I want everybody to know I'm wearing the Beats. I just really want to see how well the heart rate works. The other thing I do like about it has an over-the-ear clip, and it's sometimes when you work out with AirPods, especially when I'm on my Peloton and my head's really shaking. It's the worst thing. You're on a Peloton, you're locked in bicycle clips, and then the AirPod falls out. It's really inconvenient. So I think that's what I want the hooks for. They're lightweight. I don't know if I like the Beats sound. My memory of it is it's a little bass heavy, but I have the AirPods Pro, so it'll be good to compare, and I'll give you a review. Mine come on Valentine's Day, which is very nice.
I think the only thing I really use the AirPod Pro, I have so many headsets.
Me too. I have way too many earbuds. Yeah.
And I use a lot of different ones for different things. I've got a regular Shocks open comms, which is the one I use when I'm talking on the phone because it sounds the best for the other side. And then I have the Shocks that I swim in, the swim ones. And then I have the Ultimate ears that I work out in. The Ultimate ear fits because they.
I have all of those too.
and the Max I kind of use with my Vision Pro, but I find that the Apple Pro, the Pros, are the AirPod Pros 2 are just nice and lighter to use the Apple Vision Pro with than putting the headset on. But I find myself that's about all I use, and part of it is because I just don't like the way it pairs. I'm on a phone call on this device. It would be great if you just stayed there.
Oh, and I just crazy.
I'm working on getting it to not look at all the other ones. And I know that there's what people text me all the time when I say this on the show, but holy smokes, like when you take it out of the box, trying to get it to just do the one thing. And so like my headsets only talk, my open comms are only paired with my phone. So they can't do anything else. Like you can't pair to anything else. So I put them on; they always work. And I find that the pairing stuff, like I'm in the middle of a call and it still goes somewhere else, and people keep on saying it's getting better. It's still happening, And
this is going to be interesting. I'll test that for sure because I have the same problem with my AirPods. But it also ties into the Peloton software. So instead of wearing the heart rate monitor across your chest, I can just use. We'll see, but I can just use the heart rate monitor.
I mean, in fairness, the text speech to text works best with the Apple products and the AirPod Pros specifically.
But this is going to have the H2 in it. It is an Apple product, right?
Yeah, it does. It does have the H2 in it.
We'll see. This will be interesting.
But if you want it to be like text this person, do this thing, do whatever. When you use the other headsets, it's all very clunky. Oh, I agree. It's really clunky, really fast. So
this. I'm hoping that the H2 inclusion means it will do everything, just like the AirPods. Why should it? Should it says, according to Mac Rumors, thanks to the H2 chip, the full suite of Apple integration features: one-touch pairing, automatic switching between devices via iCloud. That's what you don't like. Audio. So audio sharing allow multiple people to listen to the same source. Hands-free. Shlomo, Find My support.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's. I always wondered why Apple has Beats and AirPods. Different markets, I guess.
I mean, I was watching Marquez Brownlee's review of this today, and he said that in his briefing, Apple /Beats claimed that that the Powerbeats originals are the best-selling headphones in the world. Best-selling in-ear wireless. I forget what the qualifier is, but the suggestion there is they do better than AirPods do. And I think that part of that, the Beats branding is real. It has stuck around. It is the rare branding that is better in its category than Apple's branding, certainly different. The sound is part of it. There is a Beats sound that's bass heavier, and some people really love it. And this is also the case where if Apple ever thought maybe we should make some AirPods that have kind of over ear so that they hold in better and all of that, they don't need to, because that's what the Powerbeats are for, and people really love them. So now those people will get that Apple noise cancellation and all of those other features, and that's great.
Yeah. And I think that I wonder how much that's affected by the idea that Apple AirPods feel like pairing them with anything other than an iPhone, you can do it just Sacrilege. As a basic dumb Bluetooth device, whereas a Beats set of headphones is ecumenical, Catholic, doesn't matter where it is.
Yeah, I think that the AirPod Pros fit in someone's ear well, just not mine. Like they fit okay, like they work okay.
Well, that's why I want the over-the-ear.
I'm constantly worried about them coming out, and I've tried the bigger ones and the smaller ones, and
I've
all
got
the different things.
Seal on mine.
Sorry?
Will this do the? Do you think it will do the hearing aid thing? Or is that going to be an AirPods exclusive?
I mean, they didn't mention it, right? I'm unclear on what the difference is, because you'd think that it's got pretty much the same tech, but I know that, it's not necessarily all the same sensors, not the same noise canceling. So, you would hope that they would. Of course, they're even more obtrusive than AirPods Pro are, so maybe not. But
that's why I bought orange. I thought I'm going all in.
Nobody's going to miss it either way, so you might as well let your flag fly.
Pick the color that's going to be easiest to find when you're emptying your pockets.
That's precisely why I was going to get black. Then I thought, no, it'll hide. Those are to hide. I don't want to hide. I want to know exactly everything I have now lately is like. That's why I'm going to get a pair of silver.
I know with my
bright
Shocks,
pink or something, right?
With my Shocks open comms, they're wiry, and if I set them on a pile of wires, I will be like, I don't know.
Oh yeah,
like it'll take me a long time to figure out what happened.
Are in this pile over here.
I finally had to give them their own little special hook, and they're on my head or on the hook, but they can't.
I did get for the AirPods Pro Max. I got the pink, which is really more orange, so they'll match.
Yeah,
they'll be nice. It'll be good.
You're absolutely right, Alex. It's such a bummer that you might want these really beautiful $250 in-ear buds, no matter who makes them, because the sound is great. You can pair with more than one. You can keep connected to more than one device at a time. A, B, C, D, E, all these features you love, and then you get them, and the only thing you don't like about them is that they don't fit really comfortably, no matter how you do it. And it's annoying to me that the most comfortable pair of in-ear buds I have are a $22 set of USB-C buds that is found in a drawer. I don't like them. I don't like them more than my wireless buds. I just they sit comfortably enough that I always get like the full audio. Whereas my second favorite pair of buds, which again sound much better, have a lot more features, and are wireless. The thing is, if I don't have them, because of where the vents are placed, if I don't have them sitting exactly in the right place, I'm going to lose like a third of the audio. And it's just such a bummer that you really do have to take them for a test drive, no matter how good they are.
Well, and I think that the hard part is that I just want them to stay in there, and I just want them to stick. And I will say that again, they were a former, I guess, sponsor of the show. That's why I got them, and then I just got hooked on them. Was the Ultimate Ear fits. I'm so spoiled because they just pop into your ear, and they just snugly they're part of my ear. The problem is their audio isn't very good. Like the audio is good to listen to. I have to talk on the phone. So I have to make all these, like in my bag, I've got 3 or 4 different headsets, and they're all based on what am I doing? Like I'm now going to do a phone call. So I put on the Shox Open Comms. I'm listening to music to work out or walk. I'm going to put on the Ultimate Ears. I want to have things happen with my phone. I put on, it's goofy, I know, but they're all very small. And I used to use Etymotic, the Etymotic phone ones, which were great. They sounded good. I stuck them in my ears. They had the little tree, that you stick in your ear, and I still have a bunch. And they were great. Yeah. I thought that I would never give up the wires until I did. And then now I put them on, and I'm like, what am I doing? It's all stuck around me. I can't like what am I? How did I live this
courage?
It's so funny how it got to a point where
I don't miss wired headphones. I really don't.
I still use them for podcasts, and that's literally it, right?
Yeah.
I was an in-ear headphone snob, but especially when the AirPods were good, and then the AirPods Pro came out, and I was like, well, forget it. And now I'm only using these in-ears with wires for podcasts. That's literally it. Everything else is.
I got to say that my favorite setup is still Bluetooth earbuds, but the kind that have the connecting wire. Because the number of times where, like, I'm taking my walk, I stop in a store, I need to unfortunately, I'm jovial, and people and the clerks know me, and they want to talk and banter. So I have to yank out one of these buds, hold this little thing in my hand, and somehow not lose it while I'm doing my shopping. Whereas when it's connected by cord, you can unplug one, let it drop, and listen only with one ear, or let them both drop, have them wrap around your. I will say. You can buy like little silicone like straps that kind of do that same thing, but like my favorite are still going to be that variety of Bluetooth, and they're not, unfortunately, they're way out of sync.
I will say that I used to really make fun of people who had bone induction headsets because I just thought they looked goofy, but man, when you get used to it, being able to just sit there and hit stop and nothing's plugging your ears, you're just talking to someone and you hear everything around you. You can, even if you don't play it really loud.
Yeah, you could do the dishes and listen to a book, and people could talk to you. And
I love it. Yeah, they're kind of amazing.
It's come a long way from the bone phone. Remember that? They used to advertise in the 70s in Rolling Stone. They'd advertise, and it was bone conducting headphones that somehow would hang around your neck.
Yeah.
It was like a scarf, a little rubber.
Well, and the first time I'd ever heard it was when Google Glass had it, and I was like, "Whoa, what is that?" Yeah. Like, because you could feel it tickle you in the back, right behind your ear, and then yeah. So it's good. They're good.
I'm just curious if they still sell bone phones.
It's also. Oh, I think TechBone has a great video about it. I think he got one and basically confirmed that it's crap.
Oh yeah, I knew that they always sent it off. Oh yeah, look, see they're like little. That is ridiculous. Yeah. The thing that's different about the AfterShokz is they're actually on your temple, so it's like this was hanging around your neck. But there are modern kinds that are like that. Bose and Couple make like essentially a collar that ends at your collarbones, so that. So it's basically firing small speakers up towards your ears, which is not a terrible. What the thing I like about the bone conductive headphones and these other ideas is the idea that if I'm walking, like if the fidelity of the music is not the issue, I just want to listen to a podcast or whatever, that I do want to have awareness of what's around me when I'm on my bike, when I'm walking. I don't want I live in a neighborhood where
it's like a sitcom where people will call to you across the street, "Hey, Andy, I didn't see you," blah, blah, blah. And you might have been in a 30-minute conversation. And if they don't see like your bright orange earbud, they wonder why you're all stuck up and whatever. I mean, I'm glad that there's a variety of earphones now that don't necessarily want to take over your entire sound view, because there really is something to the idea of being able to just add a layer of custom audio to the mix of what you're naturally hearing. And that's what these other designs will offer you.
The technological breakthrough of 1979.
The best thing about that device was the ads. Go ahead, show off your new while you're skiing, surfing, or...
It was a different time, folks. It was a different time.
We were excited about other things. It was easy to make us very happy.
We may look back and say, gosh, those were the good old days. I guess maybe we already are. The information says Apple, remember we were talking last week that maybe DeepSeek was going to be a great solution for Apple Intelligence in China, because the Chinese government won't let them use anything but a Chinese AI. Well, according to the information, they passed over DeepSeek, and they have partnered with Alibaba to do Apple intelligence for iPhone users in China. Alibaba's had an AI chatbot for some time.
It seems like the Apple way to go. I mean, DeepSeek, it seems pretty sketch.
Yeah, I kind of don't blame them.
The information said that Apple definitely considered them, but decided that the team is not ready to support AI for millions and millions and millions of iPhones yet.
They lack the manpower and experience.
Yeah. And oddly enough, for an Apple, such a privacy-focused company, the information also said that one of the reasons why they went with Alibaba was that they have so much data about consumers and people that would help. That would be helpful in some way, shape, or form.
Wouldn't it be ironic if Apple Intelligence works much better in China because of that? They passed over Baidu as well, which is Alibaba's biggest competition, the Google of China. So it's a big win for Alibaba, I guess.
Helps to cushion the blow of all those tariffs for those $8 scarves that now can't be shipped.
Speaking of which, there's a lot of noise, and it hasn't happened, so it's not in the news category. It's more in the rumors category about TSMC, a trade war, tariffs on TSMC. TSMC has said there's just no way we can build what we have in Taiwan in the United States. We would if we could, but we can't. This is going to be interesting to watch. This will really be a test of Tim Cook's diplomatic skills.
There was a lot of coverage and worrying about this because Trump has said something about how the CHIPS Act is just stupid and it's ridiculous, and basically it's a Biden program that's actually working to finally get TSMC and other makers interested in actually manufacturing chips in the United States again.
Billions of dollars, more than $6 billion went to Intel. Another big chunk went to TSMC, which is building a plant. Actually, did build a plant.
It's online in Phoenix,
in Arizona. Yeah.
So,
but it's making legacy nodes. It's not making the Apple chips. The big.
But that's
chips.
what they have to do.
Got to start somewhere. I mean, it's very hard to analyze this stuff, Leo. Right? Like
that's why I'm not. Yeah, it's a rumor.
It's not logical what he's doing. You're right. I think you mentioned it's a Biden program, and so therefore it must be bad, even though it's trying to actually provide incentives to get chip developers to invest in America.
Do with tariffs.
It's money being spent in the U.S. So what can you say? I mean, it is the U.S. is behind in chip making. It's way behind, and it needs to catch up if you want to have an alternative to Taiwan, given that Taiwan is potentially, a target of China. So there are lots of logical things that you could do here. I think the best we could hope for is that, the CHIPS Act will get slightly modified and called something else, and then Trump can take credit for it.
Tim Culpin, who was a Taipei-based former Bloomberg opinion columnist, wrote an opinion piece saying that it is his belief. He says what he thinks the president really wants is simply for for TSMC to kiss the ring and pledge to invest more in the U.S. And that's why the 100% tariff is a threat. Yeah. But remember, he did the same thing with Mexico and Canada with 25% tariffs. So maybe it's just
Yeah,
Just
I think that's a good point. He was trumpeting about how, hey, had a showdown with Colombia about accepting, and basically what the agreement was that, that the agreement that we had with Biden a few years ago, we'll do that again.
Yeah,
and that's literally
what Canada did as well. Yeah,
so it's like,
that 1.3 billion we pledged to spend on the border. Yeah, we're going to spend that. But good news.
Now it's Trump's deal, so that's okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess really the news is things are uncertain.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's very hard to know what's going to happen.
I think that's going to be the case for a while.
Yeah.
I think that's the general state of our situation. So I don't think that's going to settle anytime soon.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, Apple would love to get out of China. It's just that there's a lot of infrastructure that makes that hard, and I think that that's and getting out of, unwrapping all of those things will take a decade at least. And you can see them building capacity in Vietnam and in India and in other places. But it's something that, when we're talking about trying to fix a moving train, this is a really, really large train with a lot of cars, and you're trying to make subtle change. You can't turn it on a dime. And I think that's the problem.
And Apple's problem is that I'm sure they don't want to pull out of China because they also have to maintain a really great relationship with that company because of all the hardware they sell there. So they have to walk a very careful line. Like when I think there was a story that I read, I think a few days ago, that India's plants are going to start manufacturing MacBook Airs for the first time. But the thing is, more manufacturing they move out of China is another reason for China to say, well, what have you done for us lately? Why should we make it easy for an American company to sell American products to Chinese individuals when we could essentially be steering those people towards Chinese products from Chinese companies? So it's a sticky situation.
And if China does that slow enough, Apple will extract their need for them. The problem is that you see China dropped a lot in the last quarter,
right,
and Apple's profit did not drop. So Apple is, also, I think, working, if China does it all at one time, but if China does it slowly, Apple will slowly disengage. So that's China's, risk as well.
Let's take a little break, and then when we come back, John Ashley, producer man, if you will prepare the Vision Pro theme.
My finger's on the button.
You almost said your butt's on the finger, which would not be good. Thank you, John Ashley. Alex Lindsay is here. So is Jason Snell. So is Andy Yanako. Glad you're here. Thanks to our club members, by the way, who made this show possible. And all the people watching live, 1,164 people watching on Twitch and YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook and TikTok and X and Kick and all those places. We're so glad you're watching live. But of course, you don't have to watch live. We've got a podcast. You can always watch later. Usually it's about 5% of the audience watches live and the rest watch downloads. But it's nice to have the live audience and see the chats going. I see all the chats. Ladies and gentlemen, our show today brought to you by 1Password, a name you know well. Let me ask you a rhetorical question. Do your end users always work, always, constantly, never, without exception, on company-owned devices and IT-approved apps? They're good users, right? No, of course not. You see them holding their iPhones, bringing in their laptops. How do you keep your company's data safe when it's sitting on all those unmanaged devices and apps? Well, 1Password actually has a great answer to that question. They call it Extended Access Management. 1Password Extended Access Management helps you secure every sign-in for every app on every device because it solves the problems traditional IAM and MDM just cannot touch. Imagine your company's security like the quad of a college campus. There's a nice brick paths, paved paths between the buildings, winding their way from building to building. Those are the company-owned devices, the IT-approved apps, the managed employee identities. Then there are the paths people actually use, the shortcuts worn through the grass that are actually the straightest line from point A to point B. Those are the unmanaged devices, the shadow IT apps, the non-employee identities like contractors. Most security tools only work on the nice, happy brick paths, right? They don't know anything about the muddy little paths. The problem is that's where all the security problems happen. 1Password Extended Access Management now, on the other hand, is the first security solution that brings all those unmanaged devices, all those apps, all those identities under your control. It ensures that every credential is strong and protected. Every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. 1Password is ISO 27001 certified. They do regular third-party audits and exceed the standards set by various authorities. They're truly a leader in security. 1Password Extended Access Management. It's security for the way we work today. Now generally available to companies that use Okta or Microsoft Entra, and it's in beta for Google Workspace customers. Secure every app, every device, every identity, even the unmanaged ones, at 1password.com/MacBreak. All lowercase, 1, the number 1, PASSWORD.com/MacBreak. Thank you, 1Password, supporting MacBreak Weekly. And now, if you will, Mr. Ashley, hit it.
What do you see? What do you know? It's time to talk the Vision Pro.
There's actually stories in the Vision Pro stack. Oh, look. He's Jason, you look weird with that on. I don't. Oh, look. But did you guys send out a memo? Are you Jason and Alex are wearing their Vision Pros?
We did not send out a memo, but we've always got them at the ready.
Always ready. You never know when you're going to need
never
some
know when there'll be a Vision Pro
Exactly.
segment.
video. I wanted to actually ask you about this. I saw this on Reddit. And I wanted to ask you what it means. Unlocking Apple immersive video quality for all.
I don't know what it means by for all. This is a new company that is shooting some great footage.
Okay. They say we've cracked the code to match the fidelity of Apple's immersive video. And just launched today. It's an app on the App Store, Prima Immersive. When my co-founder Andrew and I first met last year, achieving the same fidelity as Apple immersive video was difficult, if not impossible. To reach the quality we wanted, we had to build a prototype 16K 90 frames per second camera, a commercial post facility that could handle it, the petabytes of data, an advanced immersive player to handle 16K 90 FPS HDR10 without overheating, a custom Dolby Atmos renderer for Vision Pro with spatial head tracking, and a cross-platform encoder that achieves 40 to 80% lower bit rates than regular HEVC or HEVC alone. Apparently they did it. So tell me about the app. So is this all true that you couldn't do this until they did something?
It's been hard. I mean, the question is, will you not be able to do it 2 months from now when the new Blackmagic camera's out and there's
They've solved a problem that the Blackmagic camera will solve, probably, right?
We don't know, but we think it will. I mean, Apple's working pretty hard on making sure that the Blackmagic, well, it sounds like Apple's working hard on making sure that the Blackmagic camera is going to be able to do the things it needs to do. What Apple's doing is more complicated than anybody else has done on a headset, and part of it requires some processing power. So part of the, like one of the reasons you can't do what Apple's doing on their headset, even if you have the resolution, it's doing some pretty intelligent things with all that content. And it's 90 frames a second. And so you have the 90 frames a second is hard. It's hard to find a camera that will do 90 frames a second. Different companies have hacked different cameras. The Blackmagic 12K is the most common camera to hack, for that, because it has a lot of resolution and a lot of frame rate. And so I don't know, I'm not sure what they use, but that's the most possible one. There were some pictures floating around of their behind the scenes, and it does look like they must have torn some cameras apart to get to the camera that they're doing, but I don't know exactly what that looks like. What I will say is that it's called, is it Prima? Prima Vision, I think, or something. It is, Prima Immersive is the name of the app. I downloaded it. I ponied up for the $3.99 to watch the concert. It has immediately become one of the things I would show somebody if I showed them an Apple Vision Pro. So I have this there's this hit list. Someone says, "Hey, can I see the Vision Pro?" And you're like, "Okay, well, you got to see Jig Space, and you got to see the dinosaur thing, and you got to see there's these are the things to wander you through." The
problem is there hasn't been anything new for a long time, right?
Well, they have Apple puts out new content, but none of it. It's not stuff that I would show. This is something that I would actually go, like a lot of the immersive stuff that Apple's put out some immersive stuff. I think that, watching Submerged is definitely on that list. I don't know about the whole thing, but so it would definitely, I think the Submerged is there. I think a lot of the other more live action stuff that Apple's done has not been as compelling, in my opinion. I think they've tried too hard. This did not try too hard.
They're doing concerts, right? Or music.
It's a bluegrass kind of, I think bluegrass or kind of a band that at a house.
Well, they're going to do more. I mean, that's just the first one.
Oh yeah, they're going to do more.
Yeah.
I think that it's a very good band that plays really good music. It's always a good start. They are, and
it does look better than what the video toolbox can do, right?
So there's a bunch of things that Apple does as far as figuring out where you are dimensionally. And it also has to figure out the difference between the interaxial that you had and the your interocular and the interaxial. So when it says, "Oh, I'm moving the lenses to where your eyes are," it's also measuring, "Oh, this is what your interocular distance is between them." And it has to make conversions to make that so that because the camera is not the same. And so Apple has to do some trickery to do that. And no one's had those tools to do the trickery up until this is probably one of the first things that outside of Apple that somebody's been able to do, because just the two flat images by themselves don't generate the same experience. And so it is again, it's very compelling. There's a lot of things not a lot of things, but a handful of things I probably would have done differently. I think the camera's a little too high, a little too close. There's a interview with her that she's looking off camera, and you're kind of like, I don't understand why.
Look at me. I'm right here. I'm over here. Hey.
It's super weird.
Yeah, they're learning. But Alex sent me a link, and I went and I watched it too, and it's good. It's really good. I mean, it just says the same thing, which is more people need access to this stuff, and the fact that these people cooked it up themselves and have figured out how to do it. It just means now there's another stream of content that can be out there that is immersive, and it looks, because it's really nice. It is so comfortable. It is like you are just sitting there getting a private concert. It's such a nice feature of this product. Yeah,
I would pay $4 for every concert they do. This is like, it was
no brainer.
Because they're going to only get better. And this one was great. I mean, again, this is probably one of the top immersive videos I've ever seen. And this was their first try. So I think that they're off to a pretty good state. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, I've seen a lot of immersive for a long time. I did find, and I think that I think they broke through some myths, at least for me. A lot of people say you can't have someone looking at you the whole time during a show. And I think they even broke away from that by doing these interviews where she's looking away. But when they're playing, the artists are looking right at you, like they're playing right to you. I did not find that to be a problem.
That's kind of cool. Yeah.
I actually felt more connected to them having them just play straight to me. I think that, one thing that I think that was missing there, obviously someone who mixed it, I think it was a very well-known Atmos engineer. Sounds great. It's missing the environment. So whether you put up a Deca tree or you put up an ambisonic mic, you had to get a little bit of the environment and just kind of pull it, bring some of it back in, just to kind of hear a little bit of the room, of the ambience of the room itself. And I think Apple has some tools that do that automatically, but it doesn't feel like they used any of them. But I think that it portends towards, I think a lot of headset owners are going to really be happy if more content like this comes out, with the new cameras. I think this is going to be a really exciting, I was excited to see it, and so I think that it's a pretty nifty, content. If you own an Apple Vision Pro, you should run, not walk, download it, pay the $399, watch it. I'll tell you, I'm selfishly telling you to go buy it because I want them to make more. I want them to go, hey, look at all the money that just came in, because it's, it's 390,000 or 400,000 or 500,000 or whatever of these out there is plenty to support someone. If a bunch of us go, hey, let's go buy the, that's why I'm voting for more of this content by paying the price of not even a latte anymore. I think this is just a black coffee at Starbucks at this point. For the ability to see new bands. I think it's a really intimate space to watch the bands in. So again, I was probably a little too close for me. I was like, oh, feel like I'm standing right up in front of them. But anyway, I think it's going to be, it made me more excited about the new camera coming out. So
it's also, the other thing that's interesting, not restricted to Vision Pro. It supports Meta's Horizon OS and Android XR. So the core technologies apparently would work on those all three.
And if you have those, just don't watch it on an Apple Vision Pro and then go back to them. Like that's gonna be
okay.
No. But I'm just telling you, like it is. It will look
huh?
fine. It will look fine, but it will not look like that because there's a lot of processing that's going on and a lot of resolution there that is not representable on the other headsets, and you will definitely feel it. You know, like
are they making their video encoder available to others, or is it going to be theirs and theirs alone?
I think that there's a couple companies involved there. You know, so I think that one company's doing the shooting, another company I think is hoping to do processing for folks. And
okay, yeah, Amazon's involved, as well as Balenciaga. So maybe there'll be some shoes that can do immersive.
My guess is Amazon's involved because the processing to make this stuff work at 8K 90 frames a second is non-trivial. Yeah. You know, and so it is I think that what's required there is that you can spend the next 8 months rendering on your Mac Studio, or you could put it up on Amazon and pay a bunch of money and have it done in a week.
They are asking if people are interested in distributing their video on Prima or using their studio services or scoping out an immersive media production to come to them. So it's going to be a business for them, and over and above the app and the concert tickets.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Immersive Company is the name of it, immersivecompany.com. And good. I wasn't sure, you read stuff on Reddit and you don't know, is that real? I knew I had to ask somebody who knew something.
I started getting pings early yesterday morning. I think they released it at 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. By 7, I had gotten 3 or 4 people going, hey, have you seen this yet? Have you seen it yet? So
good. Okay. Jason, you actually wrote a piece celebrating the anniversary of the release of the Vision Pro, 1 year. With the Vision Pro.
Yeah, I feel like we sort of talked about it last week. This is the great podcasting and writing cycle where some people listen to podcasts, some people read articles, and I do both. I like doing both. I wouldn't stop. I wanted to take, I wrote that review a year ago, and I wanted to take the opportunity to write a lot of words about it. But basically, the short version is, I called it ridiculous and impractical a year ago when the review came out. It was never going to be a hit. It is a dev kit essentially. And the important things going forward are for Apple to keep pushing to make more immersive content, to get more developers developing interesting software for it, which is a big issue. And, and otherwise just keep their eye on the future, because we all know, like, even the next one of these is going to be impractical and too expensive, even if it's half the price. And that's okay as long as they keep pushing. And we've learned some things that it does really well. Immersive video does really well. They could create a killer app if it was NBA courtside or NCAA tournament courtside, or or a Broadway theater immersive, or or immersive concerts, right? Like there's some pieces there, and they just need to keep working at it. But and then I guess Mac Virtual Display is another one that I think is a winner. I think that's a great feature that is, again, probably not worth $3,500, but is a sign that there is a feature there. And then I wanted to save some praise for the personas, which when we saw them in the initial demo, which is in 2013, and then when they first came out, were weird and uncanny and bad. And over the course of their development of Vision OS over this last year, Vision OS has really improved, and one of the big improvements is the personas are way better, and they made spatial personas, which it is like being in a room with people I know. It is the closest, other than reality, that I have ever experienced. It is vastly better than a FaceTime call. And so it's another thing to keep pushing on. But again, how many people who use Vision Pro know anybody else who has a Vision Pro? The answer is probably not that many. But I am one of those people who does. I know lots of Vision Pro users. So I get to hang out with my friends in Vision Pro land on the Bora Bora virtual beach. And that's great, right? But like, I don't know.
How often
it's just
do you
lessons
do that?
learned. We have a standing every 2 weeks. We try to get together and just really shoot the breeze. Don't talk about work mostly. And it's when it comes off, it's really present. I wish there was more of that out there.
That would almost be a killer app for me. I would consider buying it for that.
Yeah, and that's why I think when it's, it doesn't have to be, look, if it's $2,000, it's still too expensive. But every dollar you take off the price lowers the barrier for somebody who's got money to spend and just needs a reason to use it. The problem with the Vision Pro now, and I don't know how Alex feels about this, but like, I want reasons to use it. I don't often have reasons to use it. And when I do use it, I want to stay there. And I look for reasons to stay there.
That's a great sign. And
the problem is right now there aren't that many reasons to stay there. But like, it is a place that I like to be, and I want to be there more. And these are Apple's challenges: is how do you get people over the hump? And I hope that they continue to work on that, because there is stuff in it. Not only is it a genuinely impressive product, I think the whole like UI is really good. I think Vision OS is actually very good. It's just, what's it for? And it costs too much to do it. And like, these are all the questions, and it's going to take years probably to find the answers. But what is there is pretty well done. It's just, it's a little too empty. And obviously the barrier to entry is way too high.
And I think that, again, I think that, and we'll see what happens this summer, but I think that and I've said this 1,000 times now on the show, is that iBooks is a great example of what Apple shouldn't try to replicate, which is that they didn't do enough. And I think that Epic showed you exactly how they did the model, which is the mega grants. Like, we're going to give away $100 million, and we're not going to make it hard for you to get it. And we're not going to ask for anything back. We just want to just charge the ecosystem. And I think Apple could easily throw $1 billion down and just say, hey, we're looking for, and they may wait, maybe they'll do that this summer. Maybe they'll do it at some point, but they have $1 billion to spend. They spend a lot of money on this. And if they dropped $1 billion in increments of 25,000 and 50,000 and 100,000, there's a whole lot of people that'd be building content for this headset right now. They would, and they just throwing stuff against the wall, and some of it would work and some of it wouldn't. And if Apple, and
it'd be worth it to learn.
I mean,
it'd be worth it to learn.
I couldn't at the time, I couldn't make the turn, but talking to some folks at Epic, they were like, I was like, well, how do I get the money? And they're like, well, if it's over 25,000, you're going to have to like tell us what you're going to do with it. I mean, it was like that. I mean, that's how quickly. I mean, like it was just kind of like, it was like, yeah, anybody who had some history in doing something, they were like, let's give you some money, and you get a car, and you get a car.
I think I could do this for $24,999 suddenly.
And I have friends. I had a whole slew of friends that all got about 20,000, and some of them got 50,000, 100,000. You had to write a plan and everything else, but they're not asking for money back. And if it doesn't work out, they'll go, oh, too bad. But they really, and it made all of us. Like, there was like, oh, I don't know whether I should work on Unity or Unreal Engine. And as soon as that happened, they were like, hey, I heard that there used to be this thing called Unity, but let's just develop on Unreal Engine. Because it was just like, I can get money for it. I can run this test through it. And suddenly everybody's antennas went straight to it. And maybe there's an antitrust problem with Apple doing it. But I think that if they put $1 billion into some kind of mega fund, whatever they want to call it, they would. I think we would see a lot of exciting things. Like
what
that
is,
were coming out.
Jason? What do you think? So there really are two different questions here. You say, and I think you're probably right, that at some point we will wear things over our eyes that annotate the world around us. I think you're probably right about that. But that's not the only thing Apple's selling here. They're also selling something called spatial computing.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I'm unclear on what the future products are here. I do feel like, yes, when we're out in the world, one of the devices we will eventually have is something
Augmented
that allows
reality.
us to have things AR with annotation of the world around us. Like, that seems inevitable, right? The question is there I think inevitably, if you're going to do that, then a lot of things we think of as computing right now would be part of that. And so inevitably, the idea that you would need big slabs of glass to watch TV or to use a computer would also probably vanish at some point. I don't know. I mean, this is an open question. I think that spatial computing is good. Like, I think they've done a really good job. I don't know whether it's necessary, right? Like, I mean, it is something that the Mac virtual display is one of the killer features here, because that's just a floating window with a Mac in it. And I don't want to downplay it. It's not just, it's actually very good. but it's not revolutionizing computers. It's putting a floating computer window in virtual reality. And like, I don't know whether people really desire to have an intense 3D Minority Report kind of space, or if the future of augmented computing interfaces is literally a virtual monitor that you can look at in glasses instead. And I mean, that's an open question for me.
And I think Meta is in some ways going down the path of what am I looking at here and so on and so forth. But there's no video support for it at the moment. Like you don't see the video that that's being projected in front of you with the Ray-Bans. But I think that there is when I look at how I use ChatGPT, I open up Resolve, let's say, and I got something complicated I'm trying to do in Resolve. I had some audio pipeline or some kind of compositing or color correction, and I just open up ChatGPT. I don't Google. I don't look for movies anymore. I just go, okay, I'm trying to do this. How do I do this? And it goes, okay, that's not working. What do I do here? And I just sit there and go, you see these conversations with me just going back and forth with ChatGPT. And in 15 minutes, I do something that would have taken me half a day to figure out how to do. And now I understand. And I also understand the pipeline because I can say, well, how does that actually work? Or what is this actually doing? And it just tells me what those things are. And I don't need it to know whether it's the truth or not. It's working or not. It's working or it's not working when I get to the other end of it. My wife, will ask, she last week, she said, I've got all the stuff in the refrigerator. Tell me what I can make with this. And ChatGPT just gave her a recipe and we ate it on Friday, and it was great. And the thing
Did she take a picture or type in what was in the fridge? She didn't take a picture.
She typed in. She could have taken a picture though.
Would have been nice if you could take a picture. I would do that.
I have done that. I've gotten stuff at the farmer's market. I have a bad habit. I go to the farmer's market, and if I can't identify what something is, I will buy it and try to cook it just because I'm like, what am I doing here? So, by the way, what was it? Yeah, there's a couple of them I wouldn't recommend again. Anyway,
it's called bricolage.
No, there's like a Asian this Asian plant that just tastes like dirt when you cook it.
I'm going to interject and praise you for adventure. You learned something. That's all. That's all that it took. You learned something.
I didn't like that part, but I'll do it. My family gives me a hard time about it because I'll just bring home weird stuff.
I did the same thing. I saw delicata squash.
I keep on trying to learn how to open pomegranates.
I don't know what delicata squash is, but I'm going to buy it, and it's still sitting in my kitchen. I
buy a pomegranate like once a month to try to make sure. I watch the videos and I try to cut the square out of the top. Pull the thing open. It never works. Yeah. Anyway, so but I keep working on it. But but the thing is that when we get to a point, I think the danger for any company not paying attention to it is that this is really, really, really hard to do. It's going to take an enormous amount of technology to figure it out, and you got to figure out UI that is different. So you got to be doing it right now for something that's going to happen 10 years from now.
Yeah.
But but we're going to get to a point like our phone. I do think we're going to be post-phone at some point where I just say, call this person, call this thing. But it's also going to be like, how do I do this thing that's in front of me? Or what is this? And you're going to get to a point where information is just you're in a gel of information and a communication, and everything is very, very fluid. And these headsets or whatever, it's a mixture of the headsets and ears and everything else. You're just going to be connected to that. And I don't think it's going to be something that's going to take you away from the world. In fact, I think it's going to be something that a lot of times, as Apple said in the past, something to take you into the world because you're going to be exploring things that you wouldn't explore otherwise, and doing things that you wouldn't do otherwise. I mean, the existence of things like the satellite-based connectivity, makes it safer to go into anywhere, the hinter regions in a way that wouldn't be safe otherwise.
I think don't wear your Vision Pro into hinter regions.
No, not yet. Not yet. Spatial computing, it does feel to me like spatial computing is what they can do now, and it's a pretty advanced sort of thing. But to Alex's point, you do get the sense that with LLMs and the advancement of AI, that the ultimate interface for this is probably not, tapping to open an apps list and then putting your fingers together, right? It's having a conversation, but you can see how that would still be spatial potentially, where you're saying, hey, show me this thing, and a window opens up and it knows where you're looking or what your other open windows are, and it puts it in an appropriate place, and then you ask some context and it knows what you're looking at, and it opens something else or it makes a modification. You can see that may be a place where this goes, although they're not always places where you want to talk. And, there are other kind of people have different ways that they prefer to interface with technology. I think it's all to play for, though. And I just keep coming back to the idea that something that augments our vision as a part of a larger set of features does feel inevitable. And so, as Alex said, now's the time to be playing with this stuff because it won't appear fully formed in 2040, right? It will be the hard work of technology companies who have been learning and building this stuff over the previous 15 years who get there.
Well, and I think that an incredible lesson, if you're in Northern California, or if you visit Northern California, in Fairfax, I was in Fairfax over the weekend. My daughter and I go somewhere on Saturdays, and Fairfax won this Saturday. There is a museum of bicycles, and it was paid for mostly by mountain biking began in Fairfax. Like the very first mountain biking races were all done in right in that area, and all the guys that started it were all there, and so they put some money into it and bought a bunch of old bikes and everything else. And so there's this museum, but it starts back with a wooden foot, like you run along, you sit down on your farm and you like move your feet. There's no crank, you should go there in Fairfax and get them to give you a tour, because they won't give it to you unless you ask for it. They give you a 20-minute tour, and you get to watch technology over 150 years. And man, did it look, like the big wheel, that big wheel?
The penny farthing bike, yeah.
I've
ridden those.
They have
very
a couple
hard to
there.
ride. Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, have you ever ridden one of those? And he's like, I tried when I was younger.
It's very hard.
And then he pointed to a scar here and a scar here.
Yeah, exactly. He goes, I never
actually
getting
on them.
He said, I never actually got I never actually went anywhere with it. I just kept falling off. And he goes, and so the thing is then you wander through that, and you get through this piece of wood, and then they're like, maybe we should get springs, and maybe we should put air in the tires, and maybe we should put shocks in it. And you come all the way around, and they've got these like $8,000, wonders of technology. Well, what we're doing right now with these headsets is the wooden bike that doesn't even have pedals yet, compared. And so we can make fun of it, but there's a big world coming, in this area, and there's a lot of money going towards it, so I think that it's going to be interesting to watch.
Speaking of a big world and a lot of money coming towards it, Apple's last gasp at feature films comes out in a few months. And I don't know if you saw the preview on the Super Bowl, but F1 with Brad Pitt and featuring a number of famous F1 personalities, by the way. It should be interesting.
One thing that I thought was interesting is that when you look at the end of it, I don't think it has Apple anywhere. Like it just has Warner Brothers. Like it's not
interesting.
So I'm wondering whether because I think part of the problem is if you're a streaming company.
Oh, there's a little Apple. No, wait a minute. There's a little Apple. Yeah,
I thought the Warner Brothers.
Look at the show. See in the lower left, Apple Original Films, Warner Brothers on the right.
Right. It just felt like they're not making.
I didn't realize they were doing it in IMAX. That's going to be a good way to see
IMAX,
it.
Wow. It looks like the thing that struck me is it's not. I think that they must have cut together shots that they had and that were complete, as opposed to, because I still don't know what's really about. But the thing is, it looks like a compilation of like actual F1 footage. Like if you're watching a live F1 race. It's like, yeah, exactly. I mean,
I've been
the cameras
following
are
this
exactly where.
As an F1 fan, and the F1 subreddit has a lot of information about it. The plot is Brad Pitt is an older driver who's going to mentor a new young driver. There is a lot of shaky cam footage, but the way they did it is very interesting. In some cases, they took by the way, these cars have 8 or 9 cameras on them. They took existing footage from a race and then digitally modified it so that Brad Pitt was driving. I've seen there was one shot where a camera operator, probably your brother, Alex, had his camera behind a race car, and he had a drill with an oddly shaped thing attached to it to shake the camera.
No.
So
you think that's funny? There's a shot in Star Wars Episode 1 where a little droid runs across and gets sucked into the engine, and the engine goes blah 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 blah, blah and blows up and everything else. And that was literally a drill. They ran it in slow motion. I was actually there when they shot it, and they took it outside of out of windward, and they put it outside to get sunlight. and someone was underneath it and just hit the model with a drill, and it just shook, but done at 240 frames a second. If you go back and look at it, with little droid gets sucked in right before the pod race starts, that's just a drill on a slow 240 frames a second on a model that's about about 2 feet long.
Can I say that I absolutely love that? But the things the ways that digital effects pull me out of the movie is when they decide we're going to have everything look like it was shot via a 12-axis stabilized drone that can fly from the left eyeball of the driver of the car, do a complete stable circle around, and then fly from the car into the stands to get a close-up of the coach. And like that looks like Nintendo. That does not look like reality. Like I can't get me excited about it.
And that, a lot of that came from one shot. That was the shot from it was the Tom Cruise alien invasion movie. I can't think of it at the moment. End of the World or Battle
War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds. Yeah. In that shot, there's a shot where he's driving and the camera goes all the way around, around, through, in, out. That was the genesis, because all of us looked at it and go, "Oh, I want to do that someday." And then people started doing it someday.
That was an amazing move,
but it was an amazing shot.
It was quite amazing.
The first time it happened, we were all like, "Ooh, let's do that." And the problem is, then we did it.
This is why you should never go to the movies with Alex, because
we'll tell you.
He's always going, "Ooh, how'd they do that shot?"
Or I go, "That was horrible." Like, why did you?
Or that was horrible. Yeah, that's why. So it's been very interesting. They have used the last race of the season. Apple was there shooting for the movie. I think it will be fairly authentic. They realize, and it's interesting because Formula One is a very valuable property owned by Liberty Media, of all people, and Netflix is bidding for it right now. I think Apple probably would be a great candidate to own the F1 rights in the United States. It's really fun to watch these races, and it's very highly technical. That's what got me into it. It's amazing.
And it's the state of the art of streaming. Like it is. I mean, they have telemetry, they have video, they have. I don't remember someone came on and talked to us in office hours one time about it a little bit, and it's so many cameras, and all of that's getting backhauled, and they all this stuff shows up in containers that all just kind of click together, and all of it's backhauled to London and or to the UK.
I use an app for the Mac that I would highly recommend called F1 Multiviewer. If you have a paid account with F1 TV, which I do, you can then watch the race in a very interesting way on your TV, or I suppose on a Vision Pro. Every car has its own camera, so you can watch each driver's camera view. You can also listen to each driver's radio, so you can listen to all the radio. And there's all sorts of data coming across that you get. There's a driver tracker, there's a data channel, and you can put all of these on your screen all at once. If you have a couple of screens or a big enough screen, here's a guy who's apparently quite a fan, who has used every screen in the house so that he can see everything that's happening during the race.
That setup probably costs more than $3,500. So he has a good use case for the Vision Pro.
There you go. Sure. I was very sad. There was apparently an F1 app on Vision Pro that was discontinued, but I use Multiviewer on my big 55-inch monitor.
I hope it's because F1 bought them and said, "This is good. Have some money. Let's do this officially," because that's how we sell a lot of subscriptions.
I hope.
And sell some Visions Pro.
But yeah. All right. Let's, I think we could take a little break here and come back and get your picks of the week. What about that, boys?
Now you know we're done talking the Vision Pro.
I was waiting for 10 minutes.
Yeah, he's a completist.
And we had to.
Yeah, we can't.
Got to close
start
the
it and not
params.
finish
Got to do it. Yep.
Got to do it. We have a lot of OCD listeners.
You were like that
upset
director of the Super Bowl halftime, waiting for Michael to take off those glasses because.
I was just seeing that video. That's hysterical. There's an interview with him, right? And it was driving him crazy because Michael said, "Don't start until I take off the glasses." And Michael, it's the Super Bowl halftime, is just standing there.
Yeah, and the video you hear like his actual the director's, "Come on, Michael." Michael, come on, Michael. And he's saying, and in his old age, he's like saying, basically looking with perspective, saying, and in live television, 1 second feels like 5 hours. I was going, "Come on, Michael.
Oh yeah,
Michael, come on."
It's a YouTube. It's Dan Mishner. Here it is. Don Misher directing Michael Jackson's Super Bowl halftime show. It was on the Rich Eisen show on the Roku channel, but you can also see it on YouTube. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
What did you think? By the way, Apple sponsored the halftime show at the Super Bowl with Kendrick Lamar. It was pretty subversive.
It was.
I don't know if anybody knew though, because you couldn't really understand what he was saying.
If anyone thought that Apple was going to go clean because they're the brand or whatever, they definitely did not go that direction.
It was a theatrical presentation. Yeah. It wasn't just a hey, here's 5 greatest hits and a couple of guests. As great as those performances in the past have been, this was clearly something that right-click save to hard drive because you just want to watch that over and over again.
Well, and I needed, as an old guy, I needed the Cliff Notes. So I watched after the fact. I mean, when I'm watching it, I'm going, scratching my head. And I have a lot of respect for Kendrick. My daughter turned me on to him, and he's very political, very interesting, smart fellow. And it's not the usual rap misogynistic stuff. But I couldn't really understand what was going on. Samuel L. Jackson's playing Uncle Sam, and it was very interesting. So I watched the Cliff Notes later, and a number of people put up analysis of it. And then that's when I realized that was subversive. I don't know. Did Apple know what was going to happen? They must. It was
brilliant. It was here. It knows like here is the aperture that we can squeeze communications through. And so we're going to adapt this message so it will fit through the aperture that will get us live to 1 billion people worldwide. And boy,
and you know that there's one song in there. There's a bunch of conversations about whether that song was going to go in or not. And I'm sure that Apple was like, we can pay it.
Yeah.
Dan Stutters in our YouTube chat is saying it proves Apple had full creative control because I can absolutely guarantee you the NFL would not have approved a lot of that stuff.
As soon as you see, Samuel L. Jackson is going to dress as Uncle Sam. That's I thought you were going to get political, but I'm glad that you just went patriotic.
Well, on the surface, it did. It was red, white, and blue. It looked like it was very patriotic until the end, where Kendrick says, "Turn off your TV." Which I'm sure the NFL's going, what? What?
Again, you got to get that message to the size of the aperture. The people are going to say, "Oh, good, Uncle Sam." And again, just like patriotism. And it's like, no. Think about the context of this, and think about who's actually portraying Uncle Sam. Yeah. And oh boy,
it was beautiful, very strong political.
Beautiful
statement.
At the surface, beautiful underneath. Yeah. It was just beautiful.
Yeah. You remember that there were huge fines paid, millions of dollars of fines paid on a Super Bowl halftime where I can't remember who it was. Somebody flipped off the camera, and everybody had to apologize. It was big for the bird. This was a subliminal bird.
It almost makes up for taking end racism off the end zones. Not quite.
That was very, What do they call it? There was a term that Kathy Gillis used on Twitter on Sunday. It's like compliance ahead of time. Like let's just not go there. We're just gonna, And I loved it. There was a PlayStation controller. They talked about the game, but it wasn't the NFL game. Anyway, let's take a little break. When we come back, get your picks ready, gentlemen, because the picks of the week are coming up next on MacBreak Weekly. I just wanted to give a little shout out to our Club Twit members who really make a huge difference on our bottom line. Yes, you see ads on the shows, and that certainly covers a lot of our expenses, but not all of our expenses. If it weren't for Club Twit, we would be cutting shows, we would be cutting staff, we would be cutting the honorariums, I guess, we pay to our other hosts because we wouldn't have the money, and we don't have the resources. There's no investors here. It's just me and Lisa. And so your contribution to Club Twit makes such a big difference. I know it's only $7 a month, and we try to make it worthwhile. We try to keep the price low and make it worthwhile. For $7 a month, you get ad-free versions of every show we do, this show and every other show. You get special versions with video of shows that don't have video in the public. You also get access to the Club Twit Discord, which is a fabulous place to hang out. And I highly encourage it. Just for that alone, I feel like it's really nice to have a place to go where other smart people are talking about not just the shows, but everything else that's going on. We do a lot of special programming in there as well. If you are interested, I invite you to go to twit.tv/clubtwit. Your $7 makes a big difference to us, and we thank you so much in advance for joining. This just in, by the way, Google did it. Now Apple says it's renaming the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America on its Maps app. Again, we need that. What is that phrase?
I really thought it. We could have compromised and just had Gulf of America. It's kind of Mexico. It's kind of America.
Kind of Mexico. Yeah.
Gulf of America. It rolls off.
Yeah, the change will occur for U.S. users, but Apple, unlike Google, is going to roll it out globally. Microsoft and MapQuest. Did you know they were still around with maps? Have not yet made the change, but I think they're going to do that. And I presume, it doesn't say in this Bloomberg article, but I presume they're also going to rename Denali to Mount McKinley.
Fortunately or unfortunately, they can fall back on an established policy that predates this by a number of years.
Yeah.
They recognize one geological truth, official source for this. When that government agency makes a change, they will honor that change within the region in which Google Maps is operating, but not necessarily to other regions.
That's the Federal Geographic Data Committee.
Yeah.
But they are, of course, enjoined by what the president does with his executive orders. So.
Yeah. You kind of, I don't blame Google for doing this. I also don't blame Apple for doing this, but it would be a wonderful gesture if they said, look, it's not like this has been a contested area it's not like this is a war zone. It's not like there's anything to suggest there's anything more than a political stunt. We don't change maps based on political stunts.
Yeah.
Or just simply, oh, well, gosh, we're waiting for a form.
There's just no, there's going to be so many battles to fight. I think they were like,
yeah, you got to pick your battles.
Yeah,
exactly.
This is not
probably more important that TSMC doesn't get 100% tariffs in the long run. Alex Lindsay, what's your pick of the week this week?
So it's been a year for the Apple Vision Pro, and I was watching Adam Savage's Untested. He was talking about apps that he really enjoyed and thought that they were great that he saw over the last year. And I downloaded one of them called Magic Room. I don't know if Jason, have you played with Magic Room or not?
No.
But so this is a headset app. And what it does is it doesn't save any models, but it creates them. So what you do is you start walking around you walk around your room. And then you hit reveal, and suddenly it is building a 3D model of your house while you're walking around. And it doesn't save it. It doesn't do anything with it other than make it. And that, by the way, makes you really sick. It does this wavy thing that you can turn on, which is, I would not recommend that.
Don't do that.
Anyway, but it is.
I'm getting sick just looking at the video.
Exactly. There's probably some other. Anyway, so you can walk around and it'll just build. You just walk and look around in your house, and it will build a 3D model. But what's really interesting is it's semi-transparent. So my house has 3 stories, and as you go up on one story and look down, you can see all the way to the basement, like all the wireframes.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
It's like an X-ray of yours. And what I realized was, as an example, I realized that there's an Ethernet that I want to put where my wife works because I have to kind of run a long run to her right now. And I thought, oh, it's going to be really hard. I got to go around all these things. And when I looked at the X-ray of my house, I realized the way that the overhang worked from where her office is to where my server room is. I was like, oh, that's 15 feet, like 15 feet of under the, through the basement. Like that's not even that far. It's just that the way it was in my head was there's no way it could be that close, and it is.
Wow.
And so you see all these relationships between your house and your rooms in a way that you hadn't seen before. And it just totally sticks. That's what the headset's really good at. It's totally just wireframe going across it feels the closest to the Matrix that I think I've felt.
They have a Matrix mode, yeah, so you could be in the Matrix. They also have a clear ceiling mode, which I love.
I didn't try that. All I've done is the wireframe thing, and that was enough. But the clear ceiling mode and the Matrix mode looks really cool. But it's not cheap. It's like $15 for something that has no use other than it's really enjoyable. But it will save me a lot in installing that Ethernet cable. So that's my argument. But I It's pretty magical. It is, when they say magic room, it is magic.
So really, I think that's very creative because it doesn't do anything. It's just giving you another.
I was like, where do I save the model? And it
nothing.
Doesn't save the model. It's just like you got to go back to Polycam for that. But it does this one thing in a very. It's another one of those things like I talked about in the other one. This is now part of the Alex Lindsay tour of an Apple Vision Pro.
Yes. Let me show you what this room really looks like.
Just put this on and walk around and see what happens.
Magic Room LiDAR environment from Infy Labs, INFY, $15. Mr. Andy Anatko, your pick of the week.
Mine is a file manager. We were talking last week about Next for some reason. I blurted out, I love the way the file manager worked, where it's like worked in drill down panes. It reminded me of one of my favorite intermittently indispensable apps. It's called Forklift. And what it is it's a single window file manager that is absolutely perfect for those times where like you've got a whole bunch of like removable drives, or you've got a whole bunch of things that are on Google Drive or iCloud or Dropbox, and you've got stuff on your internal drive, and you just need to basically figure out what is on this, what needs to now be like backed up, and I can remove it from here. What is it that's on my internal that should go into the cloud or should go onto an external drive? All that sort of stuff. It's so easy to do with Forklift. You can do it with a Finder, yes. But this is so much more than just having like a window on the left and snap a window on the right and do copies left and right. It's a single panel interface. So you have basically intermediate tiles. So you can basically have, here's where the source is, here's where the destination is. It will help you analyze what's in which folder. It will mount pretty much anything that's mountable. So not just stuff that you've attached via USB-C, not just your internal drives, but also FTP, remote file sharing, Dropbox, again, any of these services. It will also automatically do things like automatically sync between two folders. So when I need to update the SD card of my Walkman, I do usually use it with an rsync command, but that's still a little bit like cutting and pasty. With this one, I can just simply open up the SD card, open up the folder that's on my NAS that has my music library on it, and then just say, please sync these two folders, and boom, you're done. On and on and on. Just has all these little features to it that it's not. That's why I call it intermittently essential. It's not something you're going to be using every day or necessarily every week, but like the dozen times a year when you need to do something like this, it will cut the time in half. And it's not that expensive. It's $20, and it's not a subscription model. $20 includes 1 year of updates. So right now they're up to 4.23, I think. So any updates in the next calendar 12 months, you will receive for free. After that, they're going to want another $20, I think. But it's not a lot of money for an app that really, really just cuts so much mess out of a task that has to be done that I keep putting off because it is such a hassle to get this stuff done.
This is a category of app I really like on the Mac where it's probably a front end to rsync and a few other tools, but it makes it just accessible and easy to use. And, like Handbrake, which is a front end to FFmpeg. That's one of the things that makes the Mac so much fun is you can get these GUIs that give you real power. I use SFTP all the time to transfer files. I wish I'd had this. This would have been great when I had to do that. I don't do it anymore.
Well, and also, just quickly, also sometimes what you're doing is very, very visual. Like I have these Samsung T3, T4, whatever drives. Those are my I have only 512 gigs on my MacBook. These are my external storage that usually travels with the device. So this could have anything on it, from just silly things that I downloaded to just try out, but I decided I just needed to make some room, so I didn't want to even go through what was in this folder, so I just dragged it on there and then deleted it off the internal, to something that was absolutely essential, and I'm glad that I didn't know I still had it, but I'm glad I found it. So it's very easy to, SFTP and rsync are great if you know exactly what files you want to keep and what you want to do with them. In terms of just sitting there with some music on and in mental flow state, just no, yes. Oh my God, that's from the beach trip in 2002. I still have those and the originals. This was so worth it. That's what this app is great for.
Very nice. Jason Snell, your pick of the week.
My pick of the week. So a while ago, I got a cheapish e-ink screen and a Raspberry Pi, and I had this project where I wrote a Python script that generates an image that burns onto the e-ink screen, and I made a little calendar. It was a fun project, but I would tell people about it, and they're like, nobody else is going to do that, right? Like, it's not a product.
I've been meaning to do that for so long. I got the Pi, I got the Pimaroni easy,
and then you got to do a 3D print a case, and there's all these steps. So this is a product version of that, and it's still nerdy, but it's much less nerdy, and therefore our audience might be interested in it. It's called Terminal.
Ooh.
It is literally the same e-ink screen that I have, but in a beautiful case that is nice and thin and well designed and not like 3D printed and thick and all of that. You can prop it up, you can hang it, you can do whatever. It's got a battery in it, USB-C for charging the battery.
With Home Assistant? Or
so here's the deal with Terminal. Terminal has a plugin system, and it will also, by the way, you can get their firmware, you can hack the firmware, you can run it off of a server that you control, but by default you run it on their server. And the way it works is there are these plugins, you can create them yourself. You can create as many of them as you want. You can query web sources. You can set the formatting. It's basically using an HTML templating language on the server for these plugins. And then there's a refresh system. So you set the plugins to refresh every so often on their server, and then it builds an image.
Pushes it down.
And then all this thing does is, as you set how often it checks, it will check and say, is there a new thing for me to display? And it downloads it and puts it on here. So it is everything I have grappled with my own e-ink devices, except that I can see how they're handling it. I can see that they're like, oh yeah, that's no good. We're going to have to set up a refresh and all that. Because what you want, because this thing's like using an ESP in it, right? Like, it's super not a brain. So all it really knows is like when to wake up and when to check. It's very low power. And then it checks and is given an image or it's not. And that's it. And then it updates the screen, or a series of screens. You can actually have it rotate through a few. And there's a button on the back to refresh if you want to force an auto refresh. Otherwise, it does it automatically. So it is a closed product only in the sense that they wanted to have control to make it usable. But if you wanted to make one yourself, you could. And if you wanted to take it off of their servers and instead use it with some other system, you could, if you're so inclined. I would argue at that point, what you're really doing is just buying this really nice productized case. But you know what? That's where I may end up. I may end up putting the same contents that are on my e-ink calendar on this, but like, this is so much nicer than that is, because it's a full-on product. It comes with a lot of built-in plugins, so you can get your Google Calendar and your weather and all of that on there automatically. And again, if you're a developer, even if you're a web developer, or if you've got data sources like JSONs you can point it at, you can pretty much build whatever you want and have it display on here. So if you've ever thought about getting like an e-ink thing, but thought it's kind of too much trouble, it's nerdy, but I'm just not that into it enough to go that extra mile, Terminal might be your solution. It's at useterminal, TRMNL.com. It's $130. They're back ordered because this is a very small company, and every time somebody mentions it on a podcast, they sell a bunch of them. They run out and they make more. They have more coming in March. I ordered mine in December and got it a couple weeks ago. Nice. But it is, if you've ever wanted to play with the fact that e-ink allows, because e-ink doesn't, it's not just for Kindles. The beauty of an e-ink screen is that when it's not refreshing, there's no power being drawn. And as a result, with this little tiny embedded chip and this e-ink screen, the battery life on this is long. So you can put it on a wall or whatever and charge it every few weeks or longer. And so it makes this whole new class of internet-connected ambient information devices available. A lot of fun to play with. I love this category. And this is a beautiful piece of hardware. You know, again, they spent a lot of time building this plastic shell and the little fold-out stand, and then getting it manufactured from an actual plastic manufacturer instead of just printed on a 3D printer. They did a great job. It's a really nice product.
Patrick Delahanty says, I'm going to have to get one and use the Twit API to make a plugin. You know what, Patrick? I will buy you one. Put it on your Twit card, because that'd be a great thing to have. I'll hang it behind me. Or I was thinking I could put the current value of Bitcoin on it, and then underneath it, how much money is in my wallet that I can't access, which would be like a little kick in the.
Great. And put a countdown timer to when quantum computing is able to
because that's when I'm counting
your
on
wallet.
It. Yes, exactly. I hope Bitcoin's still worth something by then. They do have a retirement countdown, so I might use that in the meantime. That would be fun. Very cool.
It's
very
great.
cool. Use terminal, TRMNL, just as one would expect. Terminal.com. Thank you, Jason. Jason Snell, 6colors.com, a great blog for Mac lovers, and of course, more than a blog, a news site for Mac lovers.
It's a blog. It's fine. Whatever.
Okay.
I write words and also do podcasts. So whatever you 100% of the people hearing this listen to podcasts. So please, check out
great
my other podcasts too.
6colors.com/Jason for a list of all of them.
All of them. So many. And
Mike Hurley's going on maternity leave, eh? That's great. Is that his first?
It is their first child. He is
Mike.
his last episode should be Monday unless something happens in the meantime. And then I'll have a parade of guest stars after that while he's
very
gone.
Nice. That's for the Upgrade podcast that he does on Mike's network, which is, remind me?
Relay,
that's it. Relay.fm. Mr. Andy Anako, when are you going to be on GBH next?
A week from Thursday. And I've spent already a week trying to figure out all the government agencies that keep technological infrastructure up and running. How can I compress this into something we can talk about during our slot? And secondly, I'm going to have to rehearse it so my eyes don't twitch and I don't go, son of a...
Well, with any luck, GBH will not be defunded between now and then, and you'll be able to do that.
Fingers crossed. I have tote bags and umbrellas that I can, if I'm out on the street, will keep me warm. But yeah, next Thursday at 12:30, go to wgbhnews.org to listen to it live or later.
All right. Hey, thank you. And Alex Lindsay does officehours.global. The Q&As are every morning. In fact, Lisa and I were in bed Sunday morning, and she said Alex just started streaming again. I said, my God, does he never stop?
Sunday's the best one too, because it's very relaxed. Sunday is not like the other days. It's
you get up. What time do you get up on Sunday to do that?
I get up at the same time every day. I get up from probably 5 o'clock or so, and so I don't.
You don't get to sleep in ever, huh?
Every once in a while, like once a year, I might sleep in. But literally once a year, and then I feel like I've lost the day, and I'm like, why did I do that?
Yeah, so anyway, you're probably better off. Yeah.
So I like watching the sunrise and all that stuff. So, but Sunday is like Sunday's the day where people can ask questions about office hours, complain about office hours, have ideas about office hours, and have suggestions or questions or whatever. And so, and we can answer like during the week. It's usually 2 or 3 minutes an answer, maybe 3 or 4 minutes an answer. On Sunday, our record I think is like 42 minutes. Like we just sit there and talk about something,
relaxed,
chew on something, and so it's the only remaining 2-hour show, and so we sit there and just so that's what we do on Sundays.
Officehours.global for all of the goodness, and you can join them in the after hours and ask questions in the Q&A and all of that stuff too. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Jason. Thanks to all of you for being here. We do MacBreak Weekly Tuesday mornings. For me, it's a morning anyway, 11 a.m. Pacific. That's 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1900 UTC. You can watch us live, as I mentioned, on 8 different streams. Our Discord channel for our club members, but also YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, X.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Kick. 8 of them. But honestly, most people decide to watch it at their own convenience whenever in the mood. And to do that, you have a variety of ways you can get a copy of the show, either our website, twit.tv/MBW. There's audio and video there just for you to stream or watch or download and listen later. Although if you're going to do that, probably the best thing to do is get a podcast client. There are so many good ones, and subscribe. And then that way you'll get it. You don't even have to think about it. It'll be there on your device, and you can listen and watch whenever you feel like it. There's also a YouTube channel. Very handy if you want to share clips, little bits of it. And please do Tell the world about MacBreak Weekly, the longest running, I think, Mac podcast in the world. I might be wrong, but I think we are. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next time, next week. And as I must say every week, it is my solemn duty to tell you, get back to work. You don't have to return to office, but you got to get back to work because break time is over. See you later.